The story begins with a lonely guy playing a computer game late at night. The hero was delighted when he saw what reward he received in the game. He literally screamed with joy because he got Yusu, a rare 6-star card. The guy wanted to post his award as quickly as possible to show off. He immediately posted a screenshot on the forum that he had received a rare 6-star character card. This caused admiration among the forum participants, and they were extremely happy for the guy. The main character's name is Li Yuan. He is an avid player of the xianxia game called Prayers from Heaven, which is a massively multiplayer role-playing MMORPG online game in the xianxia genre. Unlike other online games, it has exquisite graphics, lots of things to create your character and, more importantly, the NPCs have an artificial intelligence system built in. It's amazing, like being in a perfect world. Li Yuan's hobby is a guide to all the girls in the world of the game Please from Heaven. On this day, the guy received the first 6-star character card, but this is only the beginning, although this card is the strongest among the previous cards with Yusu, but the game update will bring many more new cards. Suddenly, the hero's heart began to beat much faster. Experiencing incredible pain, the guy grabbed his heart because he didn't know what was happening to him. It was as if someone started talking to him through the monitor and said welcome. This was said by the same character from the 6-star card who greeted Mr. Jun Xian. Due to severe heart pain, Li Yuan lost consciousness. When he woke up, he found himself in some unknown room. He was sitting at the table, and a girl was sitting on the bed next to him. An unknown spirit seemed to enter the guy's head while he was sitting in an unknown room. Due to the penetration of the entity, the guy suddenly stood up. With excitement, he began to look around the room, and did not understand where he was, and what had happened. As soon as Li Yuan stood up, a girl turned to him and called him Brother Jun Xian. The sweet girl cried because she didn't want to get married. The shocked guy, hearing his name, did not understand how the girl knew his ID in the game. Looking at the girl more closely, the hero realized that it seemed like he had already seen her somewhere. Li Yuan still didn't understand why the little girl was crying. A moment later, it dawned on the guy. He remembered sitting in his room and interacting with this character in a computer game. During gameplay, the character asked Li Yuan if he remembered how many moles she had on her body. The avid player knew the answer. There were only 3 of them, one on the face, the second on the neck and the third in a secret place. Realizing this, the guy wondered if he could even be in this game for a day. Remembering how he played, Li Yuan also remembered the girl's name. Her name was Gu Sheen. She was the younger sister of Gu Feidao of the owner of the Qiyu estate. In the game, she was the first NPC to meet him in the game of Please from Heaven. Without listening to the girl, Li continued to think about whether there would be a system like in the game. After which, he tensed his whole body and tried to call the system. His face turned red and sweat began to flow down it. He pushed until he turned red, but nothing worked. When Li Yuan realized that he was not succeeding, he thought that perhaps the situation was not right, or he was doing something wrong. The upset guy did not know how to call the system. The worried girl turned to Li Yuan to find out what was happening to him. This surprised the hero, because he remembered that at the beginning of the game, Gu Sheen was stubborn towards the player, but now she is very close. This is because the hero's relationship with Gu Sheen had the status of love even after death, and at that moment the guy realized that there was still a system of relationships here. And the relationship scale was filled to capacity. There are 10 levels in the character's feelings of Please from Heaven. There is an interval for every 10th level of connection, from -50 to +50, there are 10 levels of feelings. Depending on the degree of relationship, the feelings will gradually change. The upset and crying girl understood that her brother was now very embarrassed. She told about Shuyu to the School of Immortals, and Qiyu Manor only teaches the powers of the waters, and they will not be able to resist them. Li Yuan was imbued with my girlfriend's feelings and sincerely empathized with her. He knew she was worried and asked her not to worry, taking her hand as he did so. In any case, this is the girl he met for the first time, the hero thought. And she looked piteously, cried and begged him. Throwing herself into his arms, the girl shouted that she did not want to marry him because she wanted to be with her brother Jun Xian. The modest guy was amazed that this girl hugged him and was so close. For a long time she clung to the hero because she wanted to receive support and care from him, and soon she was so tired that she even fell asleep. Caring Li Yuan put the girl on the bed so that she could sleep there. A moment later, he remembered that the events with Qiyu's manor in the village of newcomers to the prayers from heaven were the first chapter in the plot. The avid player understood that now he would have to go through everything all over again, and it was not enough to meet the main character. During a seclusion in Chiyu's manor, Gu Sheen kissed Schellen. Schellen was once the genius of the Xue family, but later due to one misdeed, his dantian was destroyed and became useless, and the marriage contract was dissolved. Then Schellen suddenly became Shuyu's disciple and again began to propose marriage to Gu Sheen, who in turn refused. Taking this as an opportunity, a series of events and secrets that had been hidden in Chiyu Manor for thousands of years took place, and it all happened again. It was almost the main story of the blood contact. Realizing this, the hero knew that he would still have to fight, and if he was given the opportunity to view the inventory, it would be very helpful, because there is very little use from the relationship system alone. Suddenly, the system of relationships started, and an unknown ball appeared. Thus, the hero was presented with a list of characters and relationships with them. He was delighted to realize that he could still use the cards. At the moment, Li Yuan could only look at Gu Sheen's status. After looking at the card, it displayed the girl's characteristics and the number of stars the character had. Seeing this, Li Yuan realized that the card's abilities were pitiful, but for now, it would be useful to him. To see the effects, he needed to confirm viewing the characteristics. Out of nowhere, an unknown red book appeared in front of the guy and flew straight towards him. Enthusiastically, the hero watched the events that took place right in front of him. After looking around, he realized that it was all over, but he didn't feel anything, and he realized that this thing would now be inside him. Sighing heavily, Li Yuan thought about what to do next. A moment later, he turned his attention to the sleeping Gu Sheen, and I wondered if it was comfortable for her to sleep in clothes. The determined guy realized that she needed to help her take off her clothes and there was no need to panic. Thus, the girl ended up in bedclothes, and was still sleeping. Calming himself, the hero understood that it was just a t-shirt and shorts, he should hurry up and throw on a blanket. The guy sighed with relief and was about to leave the girl's bed. It was already quite late, and he had better return home quickly before he was mistaken for a thief. Using his agility, the hero jumped out of the window to remain unnoticed. Suddenly, he discovered that there was no ground under him, and he began to free fall. Seeing him fall from the third floor, he was struck by the terrible thought that he might die from the fall. Falling from a great height, he somersaulted. And thus he landed perfectly on the ground, unharmed. Raising his head, Li Yuan was surprised at his abilities. After all, he landed unintentionally in this way, as if using reflexes. With joy, he also realized that the relationship attributes of the card worked well. A girl watching what was happening noticed Jun Xian and asked what he was doing here in the middle of the night. Turning around, Li Yuan wanted to see who was speaking to him. As it turned out, it was Fu Juan. The relationship with her was with the status of lovers. Seeing the girl, Li immediately remembered that she was the second NPC at the beginning of the game. In Pleas from Heaven, Fu Juan is the NPC who picked up the injured player in the mountains. Lending a helping hand, the girl offered to go with her. This is the initial mission for beginners with Fu Juan. The girl was always accurate and confident in the game. Sitting on the roof, she closely watched the guy and waited for an answer from him. Unable to come up with a better excuse, the agitated Li Yuan said that he had insomnia, so he walked at night. He also wanted to ask the girl what she was doing here in the middle of the night. Polite Fu Juan jumped from the roof to get closer to the hero. And also, she said that recently, something has been happening in the estate. The new generation is definitely causing problems, so she came to keep an eye on them. Hearing the girl's answer, the guy smiled, because Fu Juan is a real tsundere. All the players of Prayers from Heaven knew this. Making a guess, Li Yuan asked that maybe she was still here because she was worried about him. The sweet lady did not decide to confess, and said that she did not worry about the guy, but was simply completing the task that she was assigned. After thinking about the answer, the hero realized that she was too arrogant. At first he thought that Fu Juan often glanced at him, and later it became obvious, because of her character, he did not really want to deal with her. The lady turned away, and the hero thanked her as a sign of gratitude. The embarrassed girl said that everything was fine and he should return home quickly, because if something happened, no one would save him. She added in a whisper that no one would save her but her. The girl's words hit the hero in the very heart. He did not understand how Fu Juan could be such a cutie, and did not quite understand why he had not noticed this before. Once at home, the hero lit a candle to illuminate the room. It had been a truly difficult day, and he was glad to be at home. Suddenly, in his bed he found a scripture for beginners. The surprised guy began to approach the textbook, and then saw that it was a textbook on techniques for beginners, and it still existed. This was not just a textbook, but a complete guide to playing the prayer from heaven for beginners, not only basic exercises, but a wide variety of techniques, and it also described the immense secrets of the main line of power. With delight, Li Yuan began turning over the pages of the textbook and studying the information in it. He exclaimed enthusiastically that he could actually read what was written here, and it seemed to him that this could be a blessing for the traveler. Everyone is in the lotus position. The hero decided to try something new. Magical energy began to hover around the hero, which was created through meditation. The energy was visible even through the window, and someone sitting on a tree branch was watching the guy. It was Fu Juan, who was thinking about why Li Yuan jumped out of the Gu family's daughter's room. Watching the hero, the girl thought that he shouldn't stand there like a fool, because it was unknown what these cultivators had in mind. Suddenly, she realized something and immediately became embarrassed. Having considered her actions, the lady realized that this should not worry her. Events continued to occur the next morning. Through cultivation methods, Li Yuan continued to strengthen his power. But as it turned out, he fell asleep in the lotus position. Suddenly, he staggered and felt something. Holding his head, he began to scratch it because he was in pain. Looking out the window, he realized that it was already morning. Although other systems had not appeared, he still had a system of relationships, and he was glad that at least something was working here. Because with the help of a system of relationships you can gain experience and improve your abilities. With the help of cultivation, Li Yuan successfully pumped his qi to the first level in half a night. As for a person not from this world, this is normal, but he was afraid that he would not be able to compare with the main character. With his current strength, this is completely insufficient, because with the first level of qi, he will not be able to complete the storyline. Here you cannot gain experience by killing small livestock. This happens in many games, but here he will most likely be called a madman. And if he wants to quickly gain experience, then all that remains is training. There is no purchasing experience for donation and no reward for logging in every day, but perhaps there are some other ways to get it. As it turns out, there is an experience scroll in the game. This is a work created by the pious hermit Xi Chang. Seeing the possibility of leveling up in this way, the hero immediately realized that he needed to look for the hermit Xi Chang. After examining the character cards, the hero finally found the desired character, but unfortunately, the relationship attribute was currently impossible to view. Smirking arrogantly, Li Yuan was glad that there were men among his cards. He simply wanted to ask this hermit to gain experience or something like that. Taking his sword, the guy was going to go in search of adventure. Having opened his door, he was ready to look for the hermit. Suddenly, Fu Juan appeared in front of him, standing at the exit of his apartment. Seeing the girl, the guy noticed that she was wearing a mask. And then I remembered that the tsundere first appeared in front of the masked player. Looking at Li Yuan, the girl concluded that he had changed overnight. The embarrassed girl thought that he still hadn't come to his senses from last night, so she came to him, and it didn't mean that she was worried about him. She had already saved him once, and she wanted to be a good person to the end. Hearing this, the guy realized that it didn't bother him that much. The hero had an idea, and he said that he suddenly remembered that he had dug up a bottle of good wine on Manhwa and promised himself that when he returned, he would definitely dig it up, so he invited the girl to drink one glass. Fu Juan loved martial arts and delicious wine, but also knew that there were a lot of wild animals on Manhwa, and while he dug up the bottle he would be eaten, it would be better in this case to buy a barrel at the tavern. In his thoughts, Li Yuan understood that this was really difficult, and the excited girl wanted him to finally come out to her. The guy still left his apartment and said that they would drink next time. He had something to do first, but first he wanted to check where he was in the plot. Events continued to take place in the Shuyu estate. Slowly creeping up, the hero tried to be unnoticed. Suddenly, he heard something in the estate. Some girl shouted that she was against the wedding and would never marry him. Hearing this, Li Yuan immediately knew from the voice that it was little Sheen. The baby was in the main building of the estate. It was she who shouted that she did not agree to this marriage, and wanted those who were forcing her to finally give up. Some guy shouted whether to be married or not is not up to the girl to decide. He also asked what Gu Zhuangzhu thought about this. The wise Gu Zhuangzhou replied that since the girl decided so, the old man would not tolerate persecution, and the guy should leave. The persistent guy again shouted for Gu Zhuangzhou to think carefully, because if he refused, then he would have to be at enmity with Shuyu. The man replied that although he was old, he had also gone through the cultivation path, even if the elder Shuyu was here, he should still show at least a little respect. And after that, Gu Zhuangzhou was completely indignant, not understanding how Junior Tak could be rude to the elder. Using cultivation methods, he created a magical sphere with which he completely protected himself. The insolent man sensed something was wrong because he knew that the elder was stronger than him. Chu Guangzhou's palpable power reached the insolent guy and almost touched him. The girl watching everything that was happening also felt an energy of incredible power. This did not bother her at all, she sat calmly and drank tea. Li Yuan, watching what was happening, did not understand why they started fighting. He was amazed because this was not in the original plot. The arrogant guy shouted that the old man was just a mere mortal, he shouldn't be so arrogant. Immediately after these words, the impudent man rushed to attack. The elder was amazed at such speed, but he was ready to repel the insolent attack. In an instant, the traitor's blow had almost reached Chu Guangzhou. The wise man was easily able to repel the attack of the young guy. Seeing them fighting, Li Yuan rushed to help because Sheen was in danger. Hearing that someone else was approaching, the guy shouted that no one dared disturb him. After all, he believed that just like Chi Yu's estate, the people in it were like that. Using his limitless strength, he unleashed one of his strongest attacks. This attack literally destroyed the ground that was under their feet. Fortunately, this attack did not hit the hero. He began to walk through the dust created due to the attack. The strength of the insolent man did not bother Li Yuan at all, because he was ready to fight and protect Sheen. Seeing that Li Yuan was standing on his feet, the guy was surprised and did not understand how it could be that a mere mortal could avoid his attack. Sheen was overjoyed and exclaimed that her brother Jun Xian had come and was here to save her. The other girl was also surprised that it turned out to be Jun Xian. Sighing with relief, the hero thought that fortunately Ning Xiangrong was also here, otherwise he would have felt bad. Ning Xiangrong was also a 3-star character, but her stats were much greater than Sheen's. A bright light appeared in front of the hero, and he felt that new power was coming to him. Feeling the increase in his stats, he realized that he had become a little stronger. Suddenly, another attack from the immortal followed, which Li Yuan also easily dodged. Due to an attack by an immortal, part of the house was completely destroyed and the hero apologized because of this. In his mind, Li Yuan was angry with himself because he should not have interfered, and this time the plot would definitely take a wrong turn. Surprised, Ning Xiangrong turned to the main character and asked if he was really Jun Xian. When the girl realized that it was really him, she immediately rushed into his arms, because it was very difficult for her to find him. This plot twist shocked absolutely everyone who stood in that room. During the hug, Li Yuan thought that this is the same shy Ning Xiangrong he knows, and the situation is becoming more complicated every second. The girl was so upset because 3 years ago Li Yuan left without saying anything, and she was looking for him, and thought that she would never meet him again in this life. The hero thought that Ning Xiangrong, the daughter of Master Shuyu, is an immortal of the highest 2nd level, the heiress of Shuyu. She is the first beauty in the world of cultivation, but, unfortunately, does not have strong techniques, despite the fact that she has risen to the highest 2nd level, although in the 4-star card, her skills have improved a lot. Overcoming his awkwardness, Li Yuan told her that he did not expect to meet her here. He was a little embarrassed that he got involved in this battle, but they could easily agree later, because now he was going to run away. The upset girl exclaimed that this time she would never let him slip away, after which, Ning began to hold Li's hand. Li Yuan admitted that they had not seen each other for a long time, and he treated her so carelessly that he was forced to leave her. Although in fact he did not know why he left, probably due to problems with the relationship system or due to a change in the plot. He also realized that his martial arts techniques would seem strange to them. Li Yuan remembered the events when night fell. Ning went to the lake to swim, and was glad that there was no one in the area, because she could wash herself in peace. The treacherous Li Yuan knew that in order to gain an advantage over such a valuable character, he needed to steal her clothes while she was bathing. Suddenly, he accidentally stepped on a dry leaf. The embarrassed lady immediately turned around, because she realized that there was someone behind her. Calling Li Yuan shameless, she screamed for him to return her clothes. Closing his eyes, the guy became embarrassed and said that this is not what she thought and he didn't see anything. Because of this, the girl became even more embarrassed and ordered him not to look at her. And then, she wanted to know where her clothes were. As an excuse, the hero said that it was just a misunderstanding, and her clothes were lying near the stone. Immediately after this, the girl came out of the water and calmly got dressed. After this incident, his relationship with Ning Xiangrong improved, and the moment finally arrived. Even though he had already done it, he still felt like a scumbag. Sheen, who was watching everything that was happening, was outraged to the extreme, and she wanted to know what was happening here. Approaching closer to the hero, she asked how brother Jun Yuan knew Ning, and after that, Sheen completely told the girl to stay away from the guy. Sheen grabbed her brother and didn't want to let go, because she believed that he was hers, now and in the future, she would only be hers. Suddenly, someone behind shouted what they had done here. It was the immortal guy who wanted to know who this Jun Yuan was. And also the immortal wanted to know if Sister Ning had any relationship with him. The indignant girl replied that this did not concern him. The hero came closer and told Rongrong that he would explain everything later. The embittered Rongrong, watching the hero, also wanted to see what he really was. Spreading his magic fan, he shouted that he would kill him today. Li Yuan, meanwhile, was thinking that he had recently improved his attributes. This should be enough to defeat this guy, although he is now much stronger than a hero, but Li was going to use his strength to the maximum. And I decided that it was worth trying to fight. Taking out his magic sword, the guy bravely shouted for the impudent person to attack him. Immortal Rongrong began to attack and wanted to finish off Li Yuan. In anticipation of the battle, the hero thought that this was the first real battle after the prayer from heaven entered the game. A powerful attack was used directly on the guy, and he stood rooted to the spot and thought about what to do. It was the sole power of water and clouds. The enemy created 6 smoke spheres at once, while Li Yuan dealt with them, the Rongrongs attacked him. The guy decided to jump to dodge the spheres. The main thing is that he would not be caught by the force of the explosion. I felt tension. The hero continued the fight with the villain. The immortal shouted that Li Yuan had dodged well, but one should not think that the enemy would give up so quickly. A moment later, the opponent used the Azure Water Spiritual Sword attack. As soon as the Azure Water Spiritual Sword touches a soul, it will be instantly destroyed. The speed of its attacks is limiting even for a hero, let alone beginners. Feeling extremely angry, the enemy could not believe that the hero had dodged again. The main thing is not to let yourself get hit. An ordinary player can easily evade attacks, but if there are other ways to avoid this, whether it's fog or spikes, they have a big drawback: they're too light. Yulongzhang also needs to use a fan to harness the power and direct it while standing in one place. Li Yuan realized that now he needed to use ranged combat skills to disperse the fog. It might come to the point that Yulongzhang would not survive. Fearless Wars continued to attack one after another. Li Yuan used the Warm Wind Master skill. And then, he attacked the Wind Island with his sword. Using the 10 Directions skill, he immediately made 10 attacks against the enemy. And in order to win this battle, the hero used clouds and waves. Thus, he almost beat the Great Master's fists. Many varieties of attacks were used on Yulongzhang, and he stood rooted to the spot, trying to counterattack. Soon, he had to retreat, and he did not understand how the enemy broke his shield of solid mountain thunderstorms. The immortal could not understand where Li Yuan learned this technique. Soon, the hero managed to damage the immortal's body using the Wind Island sword technique. He actually used a sword for this. From powerlessness, Yulongzhang fell to the floor, and did not understand where Li Yuan had so much strength, and also how he knew all these techniques. It was the famous technique of the Shuyu school, clouds and waves. He also realized that the elders in Shuyu were not as skilled as him. Li Yuan, as a player, knew all these techniques, so even now he could use them. The last blow used caused an incredible explosion. Most of the furniture was destroyed due to a showdown between 2 guys. Ning, with the help of a magical shield, was able to protect everyone present in the house. The hero, meanwhile, easily jumped out of the fog of war. The sword crossed with the fan as the guy suddenly used an air attack to defeat the insolent guy. Li invited the arrogant enemy to fight in hand-to-hand combat, after which, he launched a crushing attack with his sword, but Yulongzhang managed to return. Using the fan again, the arrogant guy used magical abilities. He fired several small and sharp darts directly at his opponent. The hero clearly did not expect such a blow. He was stunned by what he saw. Having created an improvised defense, he was easily able to repel the attack with small darts. Yu was indignant because he didn't understand how his opponent could still stand after his Azure Water Zanpakuto technique. For Li Yuan, all these techniques were too easy, because they were in his DNA, he just had to use them. Sheen watched her brother Jun Xian with pride, because he was amazing. Courageously, the hero exclaimed that Yu only knows how to brag about how strong he is, but in this battle he can only retreat. The enemy was tired and angry, he shouted. The first thing Li Yuan said when he came here was Sheen. Suddenly, the impudent man began to attack, but not the hero. He rushed towards Sheen to attack her. The sweet girl begged her hero to help her. Turning around, the guy was ready to run and save the girl. But suddenly, Ning Xiangrong used the heavenly moon reflection technique. Thus, she created a powerful shield right next to Sheen. Upon hitting it, a gigantic cloud of smoke appeared and an explosion was heard. In incredible pain, Jun Xian asked his sister why she was helping this outsider because it would get her expelled from school. But for her the hero was not a stranger at all. After all, she knew him well and was ready to protect him. The brother rose to his feet and plaintively asked who he was to her then. The sweet girl exclaimed that Li Yuan was her future husband. Yu was as angry as wild animals, and thought that his sister was joking. Suddenly, from powerlessness, he fell to the ground and did not move. His brother immediately rushed to his aid. He stood over his brother and asked him if he could hear him. With horror, brother Yu realized that his brother was dead. No one could understand how this was possible. Everyone stood rooted to the spot and watched what was happening. The hero began to worry. He was not going to kill him. His strategy had many points on how to eliminate Yu Longzhang, but he would never choose death. The concerned guy asked those who were happening if they could prove that Yu Longzhang attacked him first, and he just wanted to defend himself and did not want to kill him. One of the observers said that Li Yuan really should have fought back. At the same time, the man thought that this man was extremely cruel, and this was simply an insult to heaven. If the man had not been hiding behind the master, he would have looked like them. Li Yuan walked up to brother Yu and asked what he was doing. The indignant brother shouted that he needed to take away his brother's body. The hero smiled at this and thought that he knew his brother was a demon undercover. And Li began to say that Yu Longzhang was good at poisons, so most likely he always carried it with him, and before burial the poison must be removed. Since the guy is his younger brother, he probably knows this. But his brother completely misunderstood what the hero said, and he ordered him not to be idle. Enthusiastically, the hero said that he thought you should be cremated. The brother was shocked by what the hero said, but in the meantime he thought that this scoundrel had decided to interfere with him again. An immortality practitioner, I wanted to express my sympathy, and brother should find a secluded place and express all his feelings to brother, because Li believed that it was more profitable for the guy to turn you into his puppet now. With relief, the guy said that he had done it. The hero also asked to be allowed to give him a blessing. And as a sign of blessing, he gave me a spiritual butterfly that would help find the poison. The ghostly butterfly immediately began to fly towards the guy. Out of fear, the nervous brother shouted that it was the phantom. Li confirmed that it was indeed a phantom, and the guy should not forget to take care of it. According to the plot of the game, Mo Shu is one of the strongest demons of the clan. In the south of the continent of immortals, the progenitor of the demonic clan, the great Luo Shintian, hid, and it was he who was sent to Shuyuzu, an undercover demon. This clan worships an 8-armed deity named Luo Tian. They say that when he is reborn, he will bring destruction and rebirth to the world. Luo Shintian continued to search for Luo Tian's whereabouts. Meanwhile, as the player completes the mission in Qi Yu's estate, Ma Shu and Yu Longzhang manage to escape together. After this, Yu Longzhang will become a puppet in the hands of Ma Shu, and one of the invincible bosses. But fortunately, this story has now changed a lot. However, Li Yuan also understood that it would be impossible to rewrite the plot on the right track. Turning to the owner Gu, after such a bloody battle it is better to reschedule the show. The owner didn't mind, but he also said that they needed to figure things out, so the two of them would live together for now. Ning didn't mind living together, but she had one request. She wanted to know where Jun Xian lived because she wanted to live with him. Sheen, who was in love, was indignant because she wanted to be with the main character. In an outrageous tone, she shouted that she forbade them to be together. Mr. Gu ordered his daughter not to be rude to the guests. Meanwhile, Li Yuan was thinking that women are the most troublesome, and he doesn't understand them at all. A moment later, the owner wanted to say something, and he asked a question about whether the young man knew this little girl. The lady shouted with enthusiasm that it was so. Interrupting the conversation, the guy took the initiative and shouted that this was indeed the case, and in fact he was Sheen's teacher. And he added that he realized from the very beginning that Sheen had talent, so he began to secretly train her so that in the future she could follow the heavenly path. With loving eyes, the girl continued to look at the hero, and exclaimed enthusiastically that he was her teacher. But soon, the girl became indignant because she thought that brother Jun Xian did not want them to be together. At that very moment, Li Yuan mentally told her to listen to him and he would not allow her to marry someone else. It seemed to the girl that they had a spiritual connection between each other, and at that moment, the guy nodded to her as a hint. Suddenly, she thought that if he did not allow her to marry someone else, then this seemed like a direct confession. The delighted girl watched Jun Xian and concluded that he had planned everything. Soon, she also turned to her father and confirmed that he was indeed her teacher. Sighing with relief, the hero was finally calm, because in any case, everything was already behind. But when he was in his world, he always behaved differently with each character. This was his special strategy. Now he got into the game, and did not understand how people saw him. Thinking about this, he realized with horror that if he suddenly fell in their eyes at one moment, the consequences would be catastrophic. With a smile on his face, he realized that he had tried on many roles in just one game. And in this situation, he decided to return to this later, but now he needs to get away from here as quickly as possible. A moment later, the hero found himself on the street, and was glad that he was in the fresh air. Walking towards the exit, he realized that he needed to think about how to further increase the level. Suddenly, he heard the cry of 30-year-old Haydon, because of which he was very frightened. Some guy at the exit also called 30-year-old Husher because he wanted to get this guy. As expected, this was another character who plays a role and there is nothing to laugh about. Pretending that he had not seen anything, he began to walk further. But soon, the guy who was shouting called the hero and asked him to stop. They approached each other, and Li Yuan realized that this guy was the main character. It was Schellen. He was a participant in the mission to the Shuyu estate to dissolve the marriage contract, and also the main character in the game's plot, a student of Shuyu, who wanted to find out what Li needed from him. There was an awkward silence, and Li realized that Yulongzhang was dead, which means he would no longer be able to propose marriage, and there was no longer talk of a contract. Turning around as if nothing had happened, he asked for forgiveness and said goodbye to Schellen. But I soon realized that this was the perfect plan. If there is a main character, then there must be a main character. The polite hero asked if Xue was still in love with his childhood friend. The guy was stunned with horror. He didn't understand who Li was and how he knew about it. The cunning guy knew this because he remembered the whole plot well. And he said that the girl he had been in love with since childhood was Zhuan Yuner, and they swore to always be together. People from Shuyu simply forced him to come to Chiyu's estate to get what they wanted, which was a kiss with Sheen. Shocked, Xue immediately covered Li's mouth and asked him to shut up first. After all, he wanted to find out who the hero is and what he needs from him. Smiling, Li Yuan said that he was here to help him. With even greater surprise, Xue exclaimed that he did not ask anyone to help him. The stubborn hero added that everything was already written on the guy's face, but Schellen asked him not to meddle in other people's affairs, because he was just carrying out a task, and in return they would not touch Yuner and him. After asking if he believed them, the hero added that the guy doesn't even know what the essence of the marriage contract for Shuyu is, because he doesn't know that Yulongzhang came with the same proposal, but ended up losing his life, and he still believes that Shuyu will let him go alive. Horrified by what he heard, an agitated Xue asked if his mentor Yu was really dead. And so it was. The only person who could save him and Yuner was Li Yuan. After 3 days he promised to come to Xue again, and advised him to think carefully about everything, because he only had one chance, and whether he took it or not was up to him. Suddenly, elder brother Li Yuan disappeared and Xue started calling out to him. Meanwhile, the hero watched the character, because knowledge about the characters of the game he got into is the most effective weapon. If you deceive an NPC, this will be the surest way, and this hero was better than anyone else. He soon jumped down from the tree and rushed to find Ma Shu because he wanted to see where he was going. Having found Ma Shu, the guy sitting on a tree saw how he was processing Yulongzhang's body. Suddenly, Ma Shu cast a fire spell. He used it on Yu Longzhang, who lay lifeless on the ground. Evil spirits began to leave the guy, and a hellish scream was heard. The hellish demons wanted to attack Ma Shu, but a spiritual butterfly appeared in front of him. Parts of its wings began to disappear, but this butterfly was unusual. The phantom butterfly wanted to protect Ma Shu from the demons that had arisen. When the phantom collided with the demons, an explosion was heard and blue smoke appeared. Seeing this, Ma Shu realized that this Yu Longzhang had always been nothing but trash and had no meaning for himself. Even after death he did not forget about this disgusting person. After thinking some more, the guy remembered Li Yuan. This man revealed his true essence, but still helped to some extent. Perhaps he is also from the devil clan, although no one warned him like me, and Li Yuan owns dark magic. Suddenly, someone appeared behind the guy. It was Li Yuan who wanted to draw Ma Shu's attention and told him that he did not have dark magic. The frightened guy wanted to understand who the hero serves. Qi Yuman'er and Shangyang had never gotten along well, and he didn't understand why Li was here then. In fact, the hero was well acquainted with Shangyang, but did not possess dark magic, as he claimed. At first he was sent to Zhanhai Tower, but an accident occurred, so he is now in his Qiyu estate. Ma Shu was horrified when he heard about the Zhanhai Tower, which was on the edge of a cliff by the sea. Zhanhai Tower is located on the edge of the Yonghui Cliff by the sea, east of Zhongzhou City. This area is carefully guarded from demons and practitioners of dark magic to prevent the attack of demons. There are countless strong masters in Zhanhai Tower, so no one from Shangyang will even set foot there. The owner of the Zhanhai Tower himself is a Taoist monk who is blind in 2 eyes. Despite his problem, he remains one of the strongest masters. At this moment, Demon thought that Li Yuan had been sent to Zhanhai Tower, and he couldn't believe how powerful this person must be who was also so good at camouflage. The excited guy exclaimed, "No wonder the hero is so strong." Turning to Li Yuan, Ma Shu asked if there were any requests for him. Looking into each other's eyes, the hero realized that it was easier than ever, and he asked to help him contact his master, because there was a business coming to him, but Ma Shu made it clear that it would be a little difficult, and he thought that he might not be able to do it. After all, he simply did not know how to contact him. Then suddenly, he had an idea. The guy once heard that the master would like to meet Xue, take him on as a disciple and teach him holy techniques, and then they need to wait until he arrives here. Li Yuan decided to leave and asked not to forget to notify him, and as for Yu Longzhang, he was the secret representative of the demon clan. Before leaving, the hero said goodbye to Ma Shu and said that he was waiting for news from him. Some time later, the hero happily walked along the path whistling a melody. As he stretched, he was glad that he could finally be alone, otherwise it was somehow uncomfortable with these NPCs. After all the circumstances that had arisen, Li Yuan felt like a fraud. And also in the future he shouldn't say anything. After all, if he doesn't help Sheen, then the problem won't reach him. It would be better to leave tomorrow morning and practice away from everyone, so he can at least protect himself. And there are a lot of NPC bosses in Shangyang. If you're not careful and leave the beginner's village, then you can easily die. In fact, from the point of view of saving a life, he should not bring everything to a bad end, but when he thought of Sheen, his heart beat faster. The hero was worried by the thought that the girl could marry another person and broke his heart. Realizing that he could not allow this, the guy decided that this would only happen through his corpse. Suddenly, a system of relationships appeared before the hero. If he could travel in time, he would instantly fix everything now. Li Yuan stood on the road and laughed evilly, and behind him walked a grandmother with a child. Passing by him, the grandmother told her granddaughter that she should stay away from such strange men. Hearing this, the guy realized that he had to be careful because not all NPCs would be friendly with him. Suddenly, he discovered something amazing. A beautiful landscape appeared in front of him and many houses were visible. He realized that this was the city of Xi Chang. Some time later, events continued to occur in the city of Xi Chang. The hero admired the fact that the simulation in the game still does not compare with the real world. As he looked around the city, he tried to remember which direction he needed to go. It was necessary to go through a small alley, and again turn left and pass by the library, and not far from this place lived Xie Qian. An unknown man suddenly approached Li Yuan and asked where he was going. It was Ding Lu, a commission agent, and he asked if the guy wanted to know something, because Ding Lu could tell him everything he knew, and they could talk until the very night. Hearing this, the hero remembered that he should avoid Dean Liu, because of him the player had to carry out all sorts of small errands. Having answered the man, Li Yuan indicated that there was no need for this, but he had another question for the commission agent. In a whisper, he asked the funny man if the wound on his knee from 20 years ago had healed. Waving his hand, the man said that he did not understand what he was talking about, because his knees were fine, of course, his legs were short, but he did not think that the guy was making fun of him because of his height. After saying goodbye, Li Yuan said that in this case he would not be able to help him, but after that he also said that it was true. In a few days, a group of people with cold jade will pass here, and the lights will help the man heal his knees. As he walked off into the distance, the guy also shouted at him to take advantage of the opportunity. The excited man remembered that 20 years ago he escaped from Baila Mansion, but unfortunately one fiery arrow hit him directly in the knee. Of course, the pain gradually went away, but he couldn't even imagine how Li Yuan knew about it. Walking further through the city, the hero realized that everything was bad, but he was used to the man's small errands. But with horror, the hero also realized that if he was now in the game, then the man would not give him a reward for each task, and would ask how he knew about the wound. Realizing that this was terrible, the guy began to hastily leave. Some time later, events continued to occur at Xie's residence. Some guy met the hero and asked his dear visitor to follow him. Admiringly examining the surroundings, he saw a world of rich people, and concluded that this courtyard was even more magnificent than before. Sitting in the gazebo, someone exclaimed that the young gentleman apparently really liked this yard. There were several people sitting in the gazebo, and they heard Li Yuan admiring the surroundings. One of those present was the owner of Xi Chang. The joyful hero exclaimed that he had finally seen Xie's fellow believers. And the guy next to him bowed and reported to the master that this guy said that they had an appointment today, so he brought him here. Mr. Xi Chang confirmed that the meeting had indeed been scheduled, and then, the man indicated to Xiaoying that he could go. Concerned, advisor Yuan Kaiwu asked Xi Chang who came to meet them. Li Yuan sat down to talk, and Xi Chang asked the sovereign what business he had with this. The hero clearly did not expect such a diligent attitude towards himself, and he even felt somehow awkward. The old man was clearly furious when he heard such an answer. The guy laughed and apologized because he thought it was funny. The angry old man shouted that Li Yuan was truly a tyrant, and he would see how he spoke in the future. Confused, the hero thought that there was nothing wrong with the fact that he began to laugh. Feeling his murderous aura, he realized that he wanted to kill him. The wise man turned to the hero and added that he can laugh whenever he wants, and can do whatever he wants, but he should not go beyond the rules. Turning to Yuan Kai, he insisted that he, as the eldest, should treat the young master more diligently, because this smacks of disrespect for the younger generation. The indignant old man thought that today he could talk to the master personally, but he called a supporter, and the elderly man did not know how to respect him after that. Everything has its pros and cons, the man answered. Now he is begging him, but the first meeting was scheduled with Jun Xian. The guy was clearly uneasy, and he added that if he could travel in time, he would have come even earlier to meet Xie Qian, because he has a very important matter with him, and now the hero is sure that the old man just wants to slander him. And suddenly, Counselor Hongli spoke, and she wanted to know what kind of agreement the master had with Jun Xian. Not expecting such a question, the guy replied that he was here to ask for some sacred scrolls, and he had always valued the scrolls written by Xie. Hearing this, Xie Chang concluded that the young master was also a man of art, so he would give these few scrolls to him. Suddenly, a wise man used his magical abilities. Using the power of levitation and magic, he lifted 2 sacred scrolls into the air. And after that, there were a lot of sacred scrolls, which were instantly opened with the help of magical abilities. This amazed those around him, and Li Yuan watched with admiration. The old man was indignant at this, because he believed that literature, the bearer of lofty ideas, should not be treated this way. Instantly the scrolls were packed into tubes and handed over. As a sign of recognition, Xie Chang handed over all the sacred scrolls to the young master. With joy, the hero exclaimed that there was so much of the scroll, and the owner of the estate could trust him. The old man's anger knew no bounds, veins began to bulge on his face. Pointing his finger, he shouted that Xie Qian intended to pretend to be a kind person, and he asked why he gave the scrolls to this particular child, as if he had an agreement with him, and he had the right to take away the work of calligraphy and painting, and the old man also understood that he was interfering in his own business, but he was against it. The old man coughed in anger, and Counselor Hongli ran to her grandfather to help. The worried girl also exclaimed that Mr. Xie should help his grandfather. In this world, only literature, the bearer of high ideas, will help stabilize the illness of the soul. Indifferently, the man replied that only time will tell. With tears in her eyes, the girl exclaimed that if he did not help, her grandfather would die. Choking in tears, the girl said that they could give the treasures of the Fusang Sea, namely the golden three-toed raven of Xinjiang, and this should be enough for the sacred scriptures. Hearing this, Li Yuan immediately realized that the price for these scrolls was very high. On the map, the Fusang Sea is not yet open to players, it is an uncharted territory. Unexpectedly, the hero came simply for experience scrolls, and such a treasure was waiting for him. Looking at the old man and his granddaughter, he realized that he should not miss this wonderful opportunity. The old man suffering from illness said that they should leave, even if he did not have the literature of the bearer of high ideas, he could still live at 50 years old, and the Fusang clan would not collapse so easily. Despite the grandfather's illness, he and his granddaughter began to leave. Li Yuan exclaimed for the old man to wait, since he could share the scrolls with them. With joy, the girl looked at the hero and asked if he was serious. But the old man immediately stopped the naive lady, and he asked the guy that let's assume he agrees, but what does he want in return? Having thrown the scroll, the hero said that it would be kind of him to give him this scroll, but old man Yuan, he and the entire younger generation were very offended, so now he doesn't really trust him. The old man's rage knew no bounds, and he did not want to kneel down and beg the hero to give him this scroll. The cunning boy said that this is not necessary, he just needs to give something in return. Recently the old man mentioned the treasures of Zhen's golden three-toed raven, and the hero became interested in this. The old man admitted that this fellow was insightful and agreed that as long as he had works of calligraphy and painting, he was ready to give away the treasure. And soon, in the old man's palm there was a sphere that shone with rainbow light. What he saw shocked Li Yuan. The sphere in the palms of the elderly man turned into a certain creature. At first it was not entirely clear what this entity looked like. But soon, the hero realized that it was the golden three-toed raven of Xinjiang. Li Yuan decided to ask his elder brother how many scrolls they needed, and he replied that only one. Thus, the hero became generous and gave them 2 whole scrolls. The surprised lady did not understand why he gave 2 whole scrolls instead of 1. The upset old man said that in this case, the golden three-toed raven of Xinjiang is now his. Although he was sad because it was the cheapest price for what he was offering them. Hongli added that this young man must get along with the golden three-toed raven Xinjiang, otherwise he can't expect help from him. A moment later, the old man began to take out his first scroll. He gladly opened one of them, because he wanted to take a quick look at it. What he saw made him incredibly happy, and he was about to leave, because no matter what condition this old man was in, he would no longer disturb the Lord. Thoughtfully, Xi Chang looked at Li Yuan and asked him if he could understand the work of calligraphy and painting written by him. The hero believed that it was the incomprehensible power of body and soul that unites together. Mr. Xie will never dare to forget young Master Li's great mercy. After a moment, the hero realized that this was all planned. Xie Chang also added that he would not dare to forget Yuan Kaiwu. And if the young master wants to cultivate the golden three-toed crow Xinjiang, then he will have to find a cold place. Li meanwhile thought that this NPC is really a stingy and vindictive person who doesn't care about other people's lives, although he used to be more favorable. Suddenly, the gentleman handed the hero notes that indicated the place where the most artifacts were and instructions for cultivation. As soon as the notes fell into Li Yuan's hands, he immediately began to look at them. And Mr. Xie also wanted to say that it's quite difficult with the young master, and it's not even because he knew his letters. This is all because looking at the expression on the hero's face, he did not feel hostility at all. Xie originally planned to let the young master choose what to do with the scrolls, and if he gave the scroll after Yuan Kai's funeral, then the man was going to give him the favor of the Fusang Sea, but if the young master gave it to death, then he was going to hand over the golden three-toed raven Xinjiang. Thus, he did not think that the young master would think of exchanging first. The young master's strength would increase, and in the end, this way they would kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Examining the golden three-toed raven, the hero concluded that he was being praised too much, and he in no way doubted his choice. And also, this thing will serve as a good hand warmer for a guy. If the hero was really hurt by Yuan Kaiwu's anger and grievances, then he would never have made such a decision. There was no greed or jealousy, and it is immediately clear that the young master is an honest person, and for him this is a small surprise, Xie said. I'm a little worried. The guy understood that this benefit was actually beneficial. The man also added that the young gentleman is careful and attentive. Also, the young master just drinks wine and doesn't think about the little things. This angered Li Yuan, because he did not consider himself special, and would he really become serious and rude when he drank wine, because the man could have told him so. The wise man added that the young master is truly amazing. Suddenly, the guy stood up, because he remembered that he had left his clothes outside to dry, but it seemed to him that it would rain today, so he needed to pick up his clothes as soon as possible, after which he thanked Xie for everything and was about to take his leave. Xi Chang immediately wanted to address the hero after this statement, but he started to run away and shouted that he was leaving. This startled the man a little, but he controlled himself. And after that, he continued to write sacred letters. After all, time, fate and luck are what he will always need. Events continued in the Qiyu estate. Arriving at the estate, the hero thought that he already had scrolls of experience, and in addition he received a golden raven. This is real luck and happiness. Suddenly, he remembered something. He almost forgot about these two beauties. He sighed heavily. He thought that may God help save his life, because they would definitely kill him. The relationship scale was already full, and he exclaimed enthusiastically that he had nothing to fear. Walking through the house, Li opened the door to the backyard. There he discovered a girl, and believed that she deserved to be the third and most beautiful in the game. What happened in the Qiyu estate did not affect her. After completing a secret mission from the demon cult, Ning Xiangrong will become the head of Shuyu. But suddenly, the girl turned to Jun Xian with tears in her eyes. She wanted to find out where Jun Xian had gone, because he had been gone for 3 whole years, and the girl also wanted to understand what happened to his cultivation level. It was not the time to indulge her personal feelings, but she couldn't tell him the whole truth, because it was he who made her experience the beauty of the world so that she could boldly take a step towards her destiny, and now she is free, but Li Yuan was moving away from her. And this time the girl asked to let her save him, because she wanted him to return his Shuyu with her, and they would live like a beautiful couple. Cuddled up in her arms, the girl wanted to find a way to give him back his abilities, even if it took some time, but in order to heal all their wounds, they must stick together. The yearning lady wanted to give him absolutely everything, and only wanted them to be together. Li Yuan became even more embarrassed and his face turned pale pink. After all, Ning Xiangrong was ready to give him her mind or body. Hearing this, Li felt the skill of temptation, but did not want to fall for it. After all, he was just a 19-year-old teenager. And he quietly said that he could not do this. The girl hugged him even tighter, and she wanted to share this burden with him, but the guy shouted that she didn't know. But soon, out of curiosity, he still asked what she knew. Sheen arrived at the worst possible moment and was greeted enthusiastically. Unfortunately, she soon saw what was happening here between Li Yuan and Ning Xiangrong. The plate of food immediately fell out of her hands out of shock. The shocked guy did not know what to say to him, and he tried to justify his action. Ning, meanwhile, was thinking that even though he said that he was her teacher, their relationship was not like the relationship between a teacher and students. At a loss, the hero did not understand at all how to explain all this to them. Sheen began to cry and wanted to listen to brother Jun Xian's explanation. The girl continued to look pitifully at the hero, and he asked her to listen carefully. No matter what, his attitude towards her would not change. The girl knew this, and believed that the guy would never lie to her. And she said that she was just a little sad, just a little. The upset hero asked the girl if she saw what happened between him and Rongrong in the hall. Sheen knew that she had done wrong, but she just wanted to bring snacks. Suddenly, an indignant Ning Xiangrong asked the little girl if she liked Li Yuan. The indignant girl shouted that she didn't like him at all. Ning Xiangrong grinned and said that it so happened that she herself liked her teacher. But the little lady didn't understand what she had to do with it. In this case, the girl asked to call her mother mentor. This made Sheen incredibly angry and she continued to cry and shouted that she and brother Jun Xian were not even married yet, and in that case she should not call her mentor mother. Cunning Ning pointed out to the little girl that she herself was making one mistake. Because Jun Xian is only her teacher, and she calls him brother, she should call him respected teacher. Trembling with shame, Sheen said Jun Xian's name. Bowing her head, she still called him her esteemed teacher. But soon she became hysterical and ran away sobbing heavily. The situation incredibly upset the hero himself. It was difficult for him to watch the crying girl. Experienced Ning, pointing her finger at the hero's head, asked him how many girls he had hooked up over these 3 years. She asked because a month ago a guest brought him here wounded, and this month he will be in the heart of this young lady, and the lady considered him unscrupulous. The girl saw how every month in a row he continued to speak with shame on his face. Angrily, the lady continued to watch her lover. And soon, calling him a bastard, she sank her teeth into his neck and bit him. This was the girl's punishment. Suddenly, she created a magic field and wanted to find out what happened to Yulongzhang. It was only when the hero fought him that he noticed the marks of the demon clan on his body. It was then that Yulongzhang attacked him, and his character changed a little, which would not seem noticeable to most people. Ning knew that although Yulongzhang was unlucky, because his father was old man Rick Wuzhong, and everyone had been friends with her for a long time, and she did not expect that he would join the demon clan. Li Yuan pointed out that this was because she didn't know Yulongzhang well, and he had been collecting information about the demon clan all these years. And then the girl concluded that because of this he was injured. The guy confirmed this, but fortunately, he was found in time and treated. The trusting girl immediately took his hand. From that moment on, she promised Li Yuan that she would always be by his side, and no one would dare to harm him again. Thanking Rongrong, he promised to become even stronger. In ignorance, the girl wanted to understand that if Yulongzhang was dead, then how could she help him? Not only was Yulongzhang associated with the demon clan, but also Ma Shu and the hero needed to get rid of him quickly. We also need to get rid of the suspects. First Ma Shu, he accused Yulongzhang of colluding with the demon clan, so Shuyu will be more vigilant towards the demon clan. In this case, Ning wanted to immediately notify her father and ask him to secretly investigate this incident. The girl must be vigilant, because the demon clan has already infiltrated Shuyu, Li Yuan exclaimed. Just as the lady started to leave, she heard these words, and she immediately went back to the guy, after which, she kissed him on the cheek, because she was grateful for the concern. Some time later, the hero stood near the house and remembered that situation with the kiss. He could not think about the danger, because he had only recently recovered and given his sister a task, although recently they had actually tried to kill him. So much has happened in 3 days, including the massacre with Yulongran. But this is just the beginning, he had many more plans, and he cannot just fall in love and open a harem. However, when he thought about it, it seemed to him that it was completely impossible. Lie down on the bed, he believed that his skills were still poor, and he needed to practice faster. Taking advantage of the early morning, the hero collected a lot of things in the storage room. It contained 5 bottles of elixir, 2 bottles of healing potion and 2 bottles of strengthening spirit, elixir to destroy the basis of the soul, some medicine and materials, so he can use the healing potion of peony and azure powder. Suddenly, he also discovered clear moon jade in the storage room. This is one of the 4 elements for cultivating the Xinjiang golden 3-toed crow. For the hero this is an unexpected find. All of this was so easy to get, and it was also free. He also discovered that his sword and broadsword skill had increased, which was a reward for defeating the boss Yulongzhang. Using his luck, Li discovered an amazing sword in his inventory. It was unexpected, but he came across a Feishing sword, a purple rank sword. He thought that he was definitely like some kind of emperor, in which case he didn't need to worry about the weapon. After all, the Feishing sword is more than enough to maintain qi. The sword was so light that he almost forgot that he was an archer. Fighter Jun was good at leading 6-digit NPCs, fighting, ranking first in high combat power, and capable of subduing high-level giants. The reason he uses a sword as a weapon is because it is of epic rank. The sword was accompanied by instructions on how to use it. You should hold the sword by the hilt like a bow, and the sound will serve as an arrow. The sound of the iron will kill, like a sharp arrow, pierces the left or right ear, and then the brain. Usually a simple itch comes first, which harasses the opponent and then goes crazy. Finally the brain is destroyed. The sword was similar to a bow, so the hero should not have any problems. If you think about it this way, this artifact might still be in the Tangbao Pavilion, just like an ordinary sword. In that case, the dungeon part is still far away, so he should go after this sword, then he will have enough strength to increase his qi level. Li Yuan continued to look at what else he had in storage. With joy and delight, he discovered that he had 300 spirit stones in his inventory. The game currency is divided into 4 types: copper coin, silver, gold and spiritual stones. Copper coins and silver can be obtained as a reward for a completed mission. Gold can be extracted from nitrogen or exchanged for copper coins and silver. The exchange rate, 1,000 copper coins is equal to 100 silver coins is equal to 1 gold coin. This was done to make the poor players feel happy. Spiritual stones are high level, they are mined in certain mines, they cannot be obtained by exchanging them for other game currency, so players will need to develop their level and chi. 300 spiritual stones is approximately for leveling up 1 level in a month. Most likely these are Yulongzhang's savings, and he simply did not have time to spend them. Laughing, he realized that in the end he was in the black. And I felt as comfortable as possible, practicing and practicing. And then, we'll cultivate the first application of the 5 spiritual elements. With concentration, he again continued to cultivate his skills. At maximum concentration, a magical aura hovered around the hero, with the help of which he improved his abilities. After one night, the next day arrived, and the chi was pumped up to the 4th level. Coming down from the bed, the hero immediately began to prepare to go. He was glad that he had successfully pumped up the air powers in the evening. The chi level had doubled. The double experience scroll was truly a powerful thing. Suddenly, someone knocked on the door and said that the owner was inviting Mr. Schellen to the lobby. From Li Yuan's voice, he immediately recognized that it was Gu who was rejected, and did not understand what he wanted from him. All this time he was idle in the manor, but now the owner can give him work. Despite what happened to the students of Shenyang, he still holds on. When there were no storylines with Fu Juan, she would practice martial arts in the courtyard and wait for the player to come and start the daily quests. Compared to cultivators, she was difficult to train. As a cultivator it is mostly luck, everything mainly depends on ability and level chi. But if you have already started practicing martial arts, then continue. And the most unfortunate thing is that Fu Juan had a chance to cultivate immortality, but she gave up, all for the sake of helping her family. After meeting with the outcast Gu, Li Yuan will definitely dig up a bottle of that damn delicious wine, because just like 10th level treasures, wine can improve physical strength and open up the boundaries of strength. The owner of the estate asked Mr. Jun Xian to sit next to him. The hero immediately sat down obediently not far from the man. And then, completely, he asked everyone present to leave. The old man was lenient towards Sheen, so now she has such an arrogant character. Now she hopes that Mr. Jun Xian will show her more care. Hearing this, the hero was indignant, because he thought that they would tell him that they would give him 1,000,000 yuan, just leave my daughter alone, and the guy would agree to his proposal. But in the end, Li Yuan began to defend Sheen, saying that in this way she was protecting herself, and in fact she was a well-mannered and reasonable girl. The man replied that if anything happened in the Chiyu manor, the old man hoped that Mr. Jun would take Sheen with him, but the guy did not immediately understand what Gu Zhuangzhou meant. The excited man decided to ask the hero if Mr. Jun Xian wanted to marry his daughter. Trying to find an excuse, the hero said that Shuyu had already made an attempt on Chiyu's wedding, they needed Sheen, and she was his student, and he would not let her be offended, and was against this marriage. The old man exclaimed in surprise whether it was really just because of this. Bowing down, Master Gu said that young Master Xian looks down on the old man. If this old man does not know what his daughter is thinking, then in that case he cannot be called a father. The worried guy turned to Gu Zhuangzhou. If he needs help, he is always happy to help, but the old man knows what Shuyu wants. Of course he can contact strong schools, but he is too afraid. Looking at the guy intently, he asked if Mr. Jun Xian knew why Gu Zhuangzhou was so afraid. The hero dared to assume that it was due to dark magic. The old man exclaimed in surprise again, because he clearly did not expect the hero to know about this. Gu was an outcast just like an old fox. Li Yuan decided to confess everything, and said that to be honest, he is here not only to protect Sheen, but also to deal with the demon clan. Although he could easily have dealt with them, but because of little Sheen, he couldn't just leave, and of course, because of the beautiful Rongrong. Sighing heavily, the old man admitted that he could not convince the young master, although he really wanted this marriage, but I think that he should not ask him again. The demon clan has already sent their minions to Shuyu, and they will soon reach Chiyuyu. The hero will have no choice but to destroy them, and he is ready to help Shuyu Manor, and also does not want to become Shuyu's enemy. The shocked man made a bold guess that Yulongzhang was on the side of the demon clan. The slightly excited hero confirmed that this was indeed the case. The old man also said that then Ma Shu was from the demon clan, and the guy was amazed that the man could guess on his own. It turned out that Yulongzhang is an envoy of the demon clan, and Ma Shu is too eye-catching, so this could be expected, but Yulongzhang is not particularly smart, and he did not stand out, which gave the man more reason to think. Listening to this, the guy was amazed at the intelligence of these old people. Also, the hero had little information about the demon clan. Without it they wouldn't be able to catch them. As the man heard, they would send high-level fighters, so it wouldn't be easy. The day will come when the old man will ask him to kill their leader. Perhaps it will be selfish on his part, but he believes little Sheen, and it is Mr. Jun Xian that he is willing to entrust her life to. Realizing this, the hero also understood that in this case, the outcast Gu would be more ruthless and cruel. He asked to take only Gu Sheen. This must be so that no one from the Gu family would remain in the manor, in order to preserve the secret treasure of Xuanwu. After all, Xuanwu needed someone from the Gu family to open the secret treasure. However, it was unknown why the demon clan decided to send high-level warriors here. Thinking about this in horror, the guy realized that this was not the case in the original plot. He followed a new plot, and this time he had absolutely no idea what awaited him. All these changes were too spontaneous, and he simply followed the initiative of others. But it didn't matter. Even when the celestial goddess Pihuan Lu came down to Lao Tzu, he was not afraid of her. And Li Yuan is a great god-level player, and has been to all the places in the province. This is nothing more than his area, and he shouldn't worry about it. First, the guy decided to go to Hua for the monkey warrior, and perhaps he would take something else with him. Some time later, while exploring the area, Li remembered that Mount Hua was located to the west of Xi Chang city. A moment later, he met a group of monkeys. And I saw the mountains in front of me, and also Old Pine. With delight, he realized that he had found the right place. Suddenly, some creature flashed in front of the hero and began to squeak. But Li Yuan was already on alert, and took out the Xuanfeng sword for protection. He literally felt that it was a spiritualized monkey. A second later, she was already sitting on a branch, although she had previously been next to the hero. The smart monkey was furious because the hero managed to injure him. He bravely looked at the macaque sitting on the tree and thought that he could easily defeat it. After which, he immediately used a skill called 10 Sides of Fog and Waves. A thick fog arose, and the guy was completely invisible. Suddenly, a sudden attack followed. Another blow was dealt to the monkey. It began to squeak and tried to retreat. As he watched the monkey run away, he realized that he had really done it. Looking into the distance, Li Yuan realized that he had forgotten, because there was a group of monkeys nearby. In a state of stupor, the guy thought about what to do. Running away from them in fear, he shouted for them to have mercy on him. Fortunately, he was able to hide. In the game, if you have already started a fight with a wild beast, then you cannot run away anywhere. Of course, after death you can return to the save location again, but Li could not just leave the wine here. Fearing the monkeys, he also thought that he couldn't just get lost here. After all, in the end, if he dies in the mountains and gets lost there, he will definitely become a laughing stock. A strange thing came into his field of vision, a certain stone tablet with the inscription "So Falls." Perhaps this particular waterfall was connected to the sealed dragon beneath it, but it's also possible that it's just a dark force. If you don't go into the tiger's den, you won't catch it, so the hero wanted to try and see what happens next. Deciding that he would just watch and leave without touching anything, the guy used his magical abilities to avoid the curse. A moment later, he was already jumping into the waterfall with great speed. It seemed to him that this dragon seemed to be here, but he never saw the chain, although they say that the target itself is large, while the dragon is the same size. These runes looked familiar. One day, it seems, he came across a post where they were analyzed. And suddenly he remembered that at first everything was fine, but later, this post turned into a crooked copy of the manual, and he remembered what was written there. This dungeon is not the 20th level for beginners, but the 50th level, and is intermediate for the transformation of God. If you do not form a team to clear it, then everything will be in vain. Realizing that he would not be able to complete this dungeon alone, he decided to quickly leave and better fight the monkeys. But unexpectedly, a red spot appeared near the hero. It was the liquid that flowed from the monkeys, the first element that could destroy the chain. With apprehension, Li Yuan immediately realized this and began to worry even more. And also, the guy heard something terrifying. A giant dragon swam right up to the hero. He was incredibly angry, and was chained in a cold pool. This dragon was sealed here during the Archean period. Over the years the seal has weakened and the monkey liquid has accelerated the process. It seems that the dragon is trying to appear in this world again. An angry huge dragon swam next to the guy, watching him menacingly. His eyes were demonic red, similar to the eyes of a snake. Watching the dragon, the hero did not quite understand how he could defeat this boss. Suddenly, the dragon said that the mortal who had come to him was special. Having examined the dragon more closely, the guy also saw that the shackles were still on him, and he was worried in vain, because this dragon would not have enough energy and fluid of a monkey. Li Yuan enthusiastically replied to the dragon that he knew he was special and charming, after which he thanked him and decided to say goodbye to the dragon. Watching the guy, the dragon suggested that Li came here from another world, but the hero only replied that he grew up and was born here. The terrifying dragon again asked the question whether the hero wanted to gain power, but the worried guy understood that the dragon only wanted to free himself, and he knew that he had a window with a choice. If he agreed, he would die. This dragon is good at fooling people's minds. He liked to manipulate people and feelings, love, hatred, 7 feelings and 6 passions. He enjoys them like a blind man longs for light, because every time he cannot get them. The dragon shouted after him that Li Yuan would return, because this was the meaning of his life. But the imperturbable guy just got out of the water and swore to himself that he would definitely save his sister. When Li climbed out of the water, he accidentally cut himself, and it was not like him. He was burning with irritation. The cruel dragon influenced his mind. Bosses of level 50 difficulty have this opportunity. Turning around, he still decided to go to fight with the monkeys, because after all, monkey wine is a good thing. But a particle of the hero's internal fluid was on the stone, after which, it flowed over the stone and fell into the water, slowly falling towards the dragon. Evening has come, and events continue to occur in the Shuyu estate. Collapsed on the bed from weakness, the hero thought that the monkeys were damn strong. After all, his level is too low, so he needs to hurry up and practice. After a moment's break, Li Yuan decided to continue meditating and cultivating his qi. But suddenly, someone outside the window called Brother Jun Stan. It was Sheen who happily brought her brother a treat. Putting aside his fears, the heroes breathed a sigh of relief, because he was glad that the girl came to him. Suddenly, the window she crawled through slammed shut, and the girl accidentally got stuck in the window. She began to cry and tremble, because she could not get out. Li Yuan walked towards little Sheen and told her that she could just enter through the door because it was the most reliable way. But then the girl used the argument that Brother Jun Xian himself entered her room in this way. The stunned guy at first didn't know what to answer to the cunning girl, but after that, he still asked what she was doing here in the middle of the night. As it turned out, today Sheen learned how to make cookies from rice flour and red beans, so she decided to bring them to the hero. The joyful guy looked at the girl in love and realized that he would still have to accept them. The hero put the cookies aside, and the girl wanted to tell him more about this dessert. The embarrassed girl slowly said that the chef taught him how to make these red bean cookies, and they wouldn't be as tasty when cold. Suddenly, the hero took her by both hands and pulled her towards him. Pressing close to the girl, he said that he thought that if Sheen herself made them, then their taste would not change. Since he does not know what the characters are thinking now, he is afraid that he will do something wrong and will not receive a reward for his efforts, and chose the strategy where he is given a reward for hard work. And now there are dazzlingly bright feelings before his eyes, and there is nothing more to be afraid of. The girl in love also asked if her father was looking for her brother Jun Xian. Hearing this, the guy immediately realized that it was better to keep everything a secret so as not to scare her. And he said that her father had found him, and Master Gu Zhuangzhu already knew about their affairs, and he did not mind and even supported him in his endeavors. Pressing herself even closer to the guy, the girl dreamed that in this case they would soon get married. Realizing that everything was so serious, he was at first incredibly surprised. But then he laughed. This little girl's obsession with marriage really scared him. And he asked the girl to wait a little, because they first need to defeat the bad guys in Shuyu, and the girl exclaimed joyfully, because she knew that brother Jun Xian was the best. The yawning girl was happy that she would soon get married and was very sleepy. After touching Li Yuan, the little girl fell asleep. She must have stayed up until midnight before walking past the guards towards him. After jumping out of the window, Li initially planned to return her to his room. Like a ninja, he quietly opened the doors to her room, and he slowly put the girl down so she could sleep in her bed. The sweet girl saw that brother Jun Xian was next to her. Taking her hand, the guy told her to go to bed, and he would stay next to her until she fell asleep. The embarrassed sweet girl covered herself with a blanket and watched Li. Sitting next to the girl, the hero asked with interest if she wanted to cultivate immortality. After all, he had previously said that he pretended to be her teacher, but partly not in order to hide. Sheen has cultivator bloodline roots, and he hopes that she will continue cultivating immortality with him. And if she wants this, then her brother is ready to teach her fire techniques, but she must think clearly. By taking this path, the girl will face many difficulties and there will be many regrets. Meanwhile, events took place in Shuyu, where it was pouring rain. A girl and a man were watching the view from the balcony. The girl was the celestial Pihuan Lu. Sticking out her tongue, she said the name Jun Xian. At the same time, Sheen fell asleep, and the hero jumped out of her room. Suddenly, he looked back, because he heard something. Suddenly, he found Fu Juan sitting on the roof. The girl closely watched the sky. It was already late, and Li Yuan didn't quite understand why she was here. Suddenly, he also discovered that their relationship scale had increased, but he didn't know how it happened. Fu Juan exclaimed Jun Xian's name as if she didn't expect to see him here. Pretending to be calm, she wanted to know what he was doing here. Smiling, the hero realized that this was another chance for him to improve his relationship with the girl. A moment later, he had already jumped onto Fu Juan's roof. And he said that he took Sheen to her room and then went back. Fu wanted to ask why he left Sheen's bedroom so late, since he is her teacher, but he said it so casually, as if he was indifferent to Sheen. Li Yuan, meanwhile, asked the girl if she was homesick, and she replied that she really was. She always worries about the health of her parents and thinks how much harvest they had this year. Perhaps they are already struggling with old age, since they are ordinary people. The concerned guy decided to find out if the money from the Chiyu estate was not enough to support them, but as it turned out, the parents refused the girl's help. Her parents disowned her because she practices martial arts and is famous among people, so she abandoned her surname and calls herself Fu Juan. After a while they had a boy. A couple of years ago she visited there without telling her parents. The boy studied at a private school, and she is confident that in the future he will become someone with status. So far, her parents have been pleased and happy with her brother's accomplishments, and she is happy with them. Immediately after the story, the girl wanted to ask the hero what his story was, because he rarely talked about himself, but the guy only said that he was an ordinary person. And he has no skills, and he does not know martial arts, but he played a great prank on the people here, and now they believe everything he says. And he told the girl this only because he sees his friend in her. Immediately after this, he admitted that where he came from, the earth was round. The color from the moon is the light of the sun, and all people are completely ordinary, but even there are many significant things. Some time later, events continued the next day. Meanwhile, Shuyu was cultivating his own skills. Suddenly, Li Yuan appeared in front of him and asked if he had thought about why this marriage was forced on him. The frightened guy really didn't know why this happened. The hero decided to make it clear to him that this was the work of a demonic cult, not Shuyu, and he was simply used as a tool. Like a demonic tool, like a doll that will be thrown away after use, in a few days the demonic cult will come for him, and they will begin to lure him to them with techniques of force. These techniques are somewhat similar to the mother of poisonous insects, and he would become the child of this mother, who gives orders and controls him, and then, when he becomes useless, she would simply throw him away. Horrified, Shuyu wanted to find out what he should do to avoid becoming a doll, and the hero concluded that he needed power, and thought that the beginner's guide covers almost all aspects of this world. Instead of waiting for him to forget it all, he needs to teach someone what is there. And now Shuyu is treated like a tool and taught various secret techniques. Even if he trains like this for 80 years, he will not achieve anything. But he is gifted with the water element and the mutated lightning element. After which, Li Yuan gave him a lightning technique book containing the secret techniques of the famous lightning clan. It fits his body perfectly, so training will be much easier. If he could find a suitable lightning source, he would surpass the basics within just 3 days of training. Shuyu was incredibly happy when he heard this. The effect of these trainings will not take long to appear, his veins will be filled with the deadly energy of lightning, which he can easily defeat any enemy, but his body will receive a return. If he, for example, deals 1000 damage, then 800 damage will come to him, and you should be careful. Taking the book on lightning techniques, Shuyu thanked the hero and was happy with his new acquisition. But for now, he had nothing to repay him, but when he learns these techniques, he will fight the demonic cult and protect the people to repay his kindness. Li Yuan was touched, and advised him to start training at Jiu Yuan Mountain, in a southwest direction. These few days are his only chance to change his life. Excitedly, Shuyu knew everything that Jiu Yuan Mountain was quite dangerous, but this guy himself must change his fate. If he wants to do this, he will listen to the advice of the hero. Confused, the guy thought a little about changing his fate, but he soon exclaimed that he would not let his senior partner down. Smiling, the hero thought that there was a lake of lightning on Jiu Yuan Mountain. Shuyu had better master lightning techniques by absorbing the lightning of this lake. And the hero hoped that when he was struck by lightning, he would master the basics of the technique. Li Yuan was most worried about the top of the demonic cult, but he also knew that he had done everything he could, the rest depended on God's will. There was also that person who still had time to grow and grow, the only heir to the Qiyu estate, the illegitimate child of Gu Fei Dao's eldest son, named Xi Chang. This is a secret part of the main plot. When the beginner's part of the plot comes to an end, there will be a fire in Qiyu Manor, few of the Gu family will survive, and Xian Wu's secret will be buried forever. Well, this will be the case until Xi Chang becomes Gu Yi appears again. After completing his own training, he will appear with the secret of Xian Wu in his hands. Li Yuan knew that they did not allow him to increase his favor with them, otherwise he would have survived every last drop. And in the end, Xi Chang became the main boss of this version of the game. Xi Chang was like a demon, and was going to cover the entire world with the ashes of people. Thinking about this, the hero assumed that Xi Chang must now have met with that wounded 8-armed demon. Realizing this, the hero understands that this will be a dangerous adventure, but it is clearly worth a try. Some time later, events continued to occur in the alley of silver bottles. Walking through the streets, Jun Xian thought that Gu Fei Dao probably had not yet taken Xi Chang to his place, and most likely this guy was still living with his mother. Suddenly, he noticed a girl walking down the street. With horror, he realized what it was. A red-haired girl named Pai Huanluo. She is a level 78 lady from a demonic cult. Thanks to her powers she can understand that someone is looking at her. They were on the street, but no one was paying attention to her. She must have been using an invisibility technique. Since no one is paying attention to her, she must definitely understand that Li Yuan's gaze is also focused on her. It was a matter of life and death for the hero, and he activated the mirror jade. And after that, he used the secret technique of illusory bubbles, and he turned into a completely different person with a different appearance. As he watched the demon, he realized that this was not enough. The hero wanted to look at the character profiles in the system. There he discovered the character Pai Huanluo. Her nickname was the Witch Rakshasa, and the level of an immortal. The guy ordered the system to take it. He was in a hurry to get such a powerful character. Jun Xian's level was Nascent Soul, his appearance was also completely different, and the likelihood of being exposed was 0%. The transformation was successfully carried out. He was going to give her a reason and quickly leave. Soon he boldly began to approach the girl. As he approached, he greeted the girl as a colleague, and Jiang Feng, nicknamed Jade-Faced Meng Chang. The lady just grinned intently while watching the guy. Indignant, he asked why the girl was silent, as if she was looking down on him, because here, in the country of Jian, he has 100 ways to get rid of her. And soon asked if she had heard of the Moon Water clan. Even god-level clans were no match for him, since this clan belonged to him. With a small grin, Pai Huanluo asked the guy if this was really the case. Nervous, Li Yuan saw that the girl had some kind of wrong reaction to his words. The mysterious lady closely watched the hero without taking her eyes off him. At this moment, the naive hero felt in incredible danger. Illusory bubbles and nascent soul stages would definitely be able to fool the fusion stage, which was probably Shang Yang's best invisibility technique. The proud guy shouted if the girl understood how strong he was. Even large clans were afraid of him, and asked if she wanted to get to know him better. As long as he behaved disgustingly, even the demon's servant did not want to deal with him. The girl began to leave, and the hero shouted after her to stop now, because he would send his people after her, and he had a lot of friends. As soon as the girl moved a little further, he shouted that he was coming here now, and he himself began to run away somewhere. At that moment, the lady smiled, because she would never have thought that he would approach her on his own. There was an unknown thread on her finger, and she told the tenacious worm to tie his knot. Immediately after this, she wanted to see how far Li Yuan could run away from her. The hero ran to the wall of some castle, and was very out of breath due to his fast running. He was scared, and thought that she was really some high-ranking person from a demonic cult, and this meant that he would still meet her face to face. With the famous Pai Huanluo which Rakshasa, I understand this with horror, the hero knew that he would not survive the meeting with her. But it was necessary to remain calm, and the guy just wanted to pull out the time machine. He soon realized with horror that such a thing did not yet exist. If she was heading to Qiyu village, then it is unknown why she was in this city, because it was completely out of her way. Suddenly, he realized that perhaps it was because of the eight-armed demon. The only thing that connects the demonic cult with this place is the eight-armed demon, and that is why such a high-ranking one is especially here, but this is no longer the main plot, but a branch hidden behind it. The cult could send intelligence to some place that is not known. The players know. Even if someone from a demonic cult starts looking for a hero, he will simply deceive her again. But he also knew that it was time for him to stop doing such dangerous things. It was too arrogant on his part, and now he needed to go back to searching for Xi Chang. Soon after this situation, an official explanation followed. Demons are creatures of pure consciousness. They need a body to survive outside the demon realm, and people are ideal vessels for them. Monsters can also be vessels, but most of them have very low compatibility with demons, so after a while they turn into puddles. When Luo Yuan first came into the game, there was nothing related to demons. The demonic cult card had not been released, so there was not much information about him, and the players themselves did not know much about demons. At least one thing is known for sure, that the entire upper central world is divided into 3 planes. The first surface is the floating city of the heavenly kingdom, the second surface is the continent of the human kingdom, and under the dark crevices is the third surface, the kingdom of demons. The lower surface is heated to such an extent that everything is covered in lava, and the demons are probably in a gaseous state. Li Yuan simply had to get along with Xi Chang, and must meet that old man who wants to destroy the demons and learn divinity from him. Looking at the jade disc, the hero remembered Pai Huanluo, and he swore to himself that he would deal with this witch when he completed his training. The hero decisively began to act in order to fulfill his plan, and he was sent primarily for training. Soon, he still managed to find the place where he was going. While on a tree branch, he watched the girl who was entering the house. It was Madame Wang. The girl used to be a slave, but now she has regained her freedom and earns a living by doing laundry. Later in the game, Madame Wang must die, but there is no explanation for her death in the game, and Li can try to save her. Soon, the guy also saw Ding Lu. He was talking to Madame Wang, and they were both from Heavenly Prefecture. Heavenly Prefecture is a special clan made up of people from the coast of the East China Sea on the Middle Island. These people train on their own and always succeed in it, no matter where they are. However, many players like to join this clan. Firstly, they earn a little and quickly, and secondly, in many workshops there are special people from whom you can get magic stones of the Heavenly Clan. Smirking, the hero realized that it looked like he would have to look not only for Xi Chang, but also for that old man who could not cope with the demons in the mountains. The old man said that he had a chance to cure his injury, and the madam asked how he knew something about cold jade. A little nervous, the man said that someone named Lu Junxian from Qiyu village told him about this. This guy has some connections with the young lady from the Gu family, and the divine beauty from Shuyu school listens to him. But also, the old man had never heard of such a person in the world of immortality cultivators, so he doesn't know where this love expert came from. Suddenly, Li Yuan was already behind the old man, and asked him if he was talking about a love expert. If so, then here he is. Having noticed who was standing next to him, the old man was simply dumbfounded. Madam also did not know where the hero came from, but the guy thought it was normal that they didn't know him. After all, he was doing the same dirty things as them. The man assumed that Li was following him, but this was impossible. He checked everything before coming here. Madame ordered Ding Lu to grab him and took out her blade. The experienced hero was easily able to stop the lady's attack. But the lady exclaimed that the blade of the snake blade is saturated with poison, the antidote to which simply does not exist. Even those who cultivate immortality cannot escape from it. But, smiling, the guy said that he didn't need an antidote, because he is at the nascent soul stage. People who did not expect this were stunned by what they heard. Madame even dropped her dangerous sword out of shock and horror. As it turned out, with the help of his magical abilities, the hero forced the girl to drop her sword. The demonic cult began to interfere in the affairs of Shuyu and the Shuyu school. It will only get worse, and when the heavenly prefecture also begins to take part in this, then they should leave this place, if, of course, they want to save their lives. The worried man wanted to ask Mr. Jun Xian something. Suddenly, the guy just vanished right in front of them. The information they heard caused concern among the lady and the man. Meanwhile, events took place in the cave. A certain creature attacked an elderly man and a little girl, and wanted to take the girl's body. The creature attacked the old man, and he sat motionless. The little girl begged to let her grandfather go so that he could stay alive. The giant creature was not going to do this, because she only wanted to get the body of a little girl. Suddenly, there was a sound predicting death. A wave of death surrounded the entire cave, and a powerful explosion was heard. The demon wanted to know who this brave man was who dared to stop him, but Li Yuan asked why someone who would remain on the verge of death would need to know this. And then, he used the technique of hatred of flying stars. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a bow appeared. This made the demon laugh because he thought that a swordsman who wielded a bow sounded like a joke. Meanwhile, the hero quickly grabbed the bow, and he pulled the bowstring in order to make a shot. Smiling, he said that the demon would forgive him, because he was not a swordsman. An attack called Northern Sirius was used. The dark demon was terrified and watched as an improvised arrow flew towards him. Blazing with pain, the demon screamed furiously, and the old man, meanwhile, used magical abilities. The demon wanted to live, but the elder ordered him to climb back. Soon, the demon completely disappeared and was no longer visible. Fortunately, this demon is still weak, otherwise even his nascent soul stage wouldn't help him. But as we know, there are no easy ways, and he needs to train. He cannot always rely on the characteristics of NPCs. An unknown old man in a sitting lotus position thanked the hero for helping him. The granddaughter also immediately ran up to her grandfather, because she wanted to find out if everything was okay with him. This elder was Ding Huan, the former head teacher of the Jade Void clan, and he said that 700 years ago, he was the master of the Jade Void, but now he is a mere old colleague, and without Li Yuan's help, his years of effort would have been in vain. Hundreds of years ago, 8 hands possessed Ding Huan, so he had to stop in this dark cave to continue to keep the demon inside him. Ding Huan had a period of going through grief, but failed to succeed several times due to interference caused by the inner demon. His life gradually declined, and it was at this time that Gu Chang appeared. According to the plot, Ding Huan decided to transfer his knowledge to Gu Chang, and the 8-armed demon chose him as his next vessel. Li Yuan came precisely to visit Gu Chang, who is now 9 years old, and these are the young years of the most important boss in the game. Gu Chang was amazed that someone was looking for him. The hero was only here because he met his mother at the foot of the mountain, and they needed to talk about something. The good-natured guy wanted to talk to the boy about his family. The indignant kid asked his brother if he liked his mother. This surprised the guy incredibly, and he closely watched the baby. But soon, smiling, he replied that no, he was talking about the Shuyu estate, but the baby did not want to return there, but wanted to stay with his mother. Listen to this, the hero was thinking that this future head boss is not as sweet and innocent as he seems. He immediately understood everything when he said about Shuyu Manor. Ding Huan heard from Gu Chang that the Shuyu estate wanted to bring him back to make him their successor, but the old man did not know how the hero was involved in this. If you tell this long story briefly, then the baby can call the hero uncle. Gu Sheen is his aunt, so it is not surprising that he is his uncle, but the embarrassed boy still had no intention of returning to Shuyu. With sadness, the old man Ding Huan said that he wanted Gu Chang to join the legendary clan, but everyone there probably thinks that he died a long time ago. If he joins them under the pretext of his name, he will be involved in a power struggle. And this was indeed true. because in the game the legendary clan had the most terrible internal conflicts, despite the fact that this clan is the highest among legitimate organizations. Within it there were always groups that were ready to grab each other by the throat. It was they who split the clan is divided into two parts. Once the old man found out who the hero really was, he asked to tell him about the Black Fog, because it seemed to him that it was an 8-armed demon worshipped by a demonic cult. What he heard only made the elderly man laugh. After all, the hero is really insightful. It was an 8-armed demon. He tormented the old man for 700 years, but he was never able to defeat him. And then Xi Chang came to the cave, whom he decided to make his successor, but this demon wanted to change his master in order to get into the human world. This is what should have happened according to the plot of the game. If the guy had not intervened, the demon would have already infected Xi Chang's body, and it seems that the hero arrived just in time and was glad that he could help him suppress the demon. The good-natured old man thanked the hero. This arrow was truly wonderful, and it's not just his powerful weapon, and Li Yuan, meanwhile, thought that the old man was overpraising him too much, but perhaps this is the way it is here. They are not afraid that people will become overly self-confident after this. The guy said that these were the most ordinary techniques, and there was nothing to be proud of, but little Xi Chang behind him shouted that he was a liar. The slightly embarrassed hero thought that this brat clearly lacked training. As it turned out, the old man initially had no choice. He had to make Xi Chang his successor, but he is young and without proper attention may go down the wrong path. Even though the man has not interacted with people for over 100 years, he is still confident in his skills in assessing people, and knows that Li Yuan is not a bad person. Besides, his exceptional talent cannot be denied, because he has reached the nascent soul stage so at a young age. The joyful guy thanked the elder for his kind words. The old man was going to pass on his knowledge to him and hoped that he, in turn, would accept Xi Chang as a disciple and pass on this knowledge to him when the time came. Embarrassed, Li wanted to tell the eldest that this was quite reckless. All this praise was not just like that, and yet it is true what they say, the older the wiser. The wise old man asked Xi Chang to greet his new teacher. From this day on, a brat named Xi Chang becomes a student of the wise and brave Li Yuan. Some time later, events continued to occur in the alley of silver bottles. The guy ordered the kid to go inside himself. And even more so, don't talk too much about Li Yuan. The kid went to the fortress and told his mother that he had returned. Madame was delighted and offered the boy some water to drink. Previously, Madame Wang was once so hot-tempered, but she has changed a lot. She even stopped thinking about the place. Apparently Xi Chang is very important to her. Some time later, events continued in Shiyu's manner. As soon as the hero entered the estate, he immediately met Rongrong. The girl had just contacted Shuyu, and there was some chaos going on there. Many were furious when they learned of Yulongzhang's death. Yulongzhang's father completely went berserk. Those who had always been suspicious of Yulongzhang began to spread rumors that he was a demon, and then, adding fuel to the fire, Ma Shu began to claim this. A fight broke out between Yulongzhang's father and Ma Shu. His son died, but instead of avenging his death, he began to fight for his position in the clan. They only started asking a few days ago who was to blame for Yulongzhang's death. After listening to this story, Li Yuan knew that people really loved to fight. And the girl said that compared to the large clans of the Middle Island, their Shuyu school is just a small fish in a big pond. There is a limit to the talents of both students and elders. Cultivating immortality is a long journey. So many people after a while lose sight of their true goals and begin to chase after such insignificant things as status and power. The hero decided to give a compliment and told the girl that they couldn't say that, because she had the same broad view of the world. But the lady didn't know what the point was in not being interested in power and status if she gave in to other feelings. Hearing this hint, the guy felt awkward and blushed. The sweet girl took both his hands, and with her heart the lady swore that he was the one she had been looking for all her life, calling him her husband. Ning was madly in love. She wanted to create a marriage with the hero, and be with him for the rest of her life. Because of this, the young man began to become noticeably nervous. The lady also added that he should not worry, because she would protect him. After all, she had already told her father that she would not marry anyone other than Li Yuan, or become a nun in the Jade Void clan. But the hero knew that she could not go there. There might be another difficult lady there who was looking for him. The guy's conscience began to play, but he knew that everything would be fine. Smiling, he took the girl by the shoulder and asked her not to joke like that. because if she becomes a nun, he will sneak in there, and will force Ning to break their rules. Seduced by the master's love, the lady was crazy. Suddenly, she pinched the hero's hand with all her might, because he was talking nonsense as always, and now they were even. Li Yuan asked what Ning's father said. He loves the girl very much, so he is still trying to convince her. But the girl in love wanted the guy to allow her to return the hero and show her to her father. The delighted hero said that then he would make sure that he would happily give her as his wife. But he also thought that Gu Xin was here, and they couldn't get married without danger. Seeing Li's reaction, the girl immediately assumed that he was still thinking about that girl. In fact, she didn't care at all, because she had been looking for him for 3 years, and the thoughts of her heart were simply burning her from the inside. She was so worried, thinking that he no longer wanted to see her. And the lady didn't even know what she would do if she didn't see Li Yuan again. Snuggled close to the guy, she knew that now, finally, she had found him, and that was enough for her. He cared so much about that girl, and the lady could not leave him to his fate, and the hero no longer has to worry about his father and Yuzhong, because this time she will definitely protect him, and no one will dare to harm him. The embarrassed guy asked if it was true. The incredibly in love girl only hugged him as a sign of response. While hugging, the main character was thinking about whether he should tell the girl that he was at the stage of a nascent soul and should not worry about him. In just a few days, he had advanced from the foundation stage to the nascent soul stage, and there was no way to explain it, but it was better to leave things as they were for now. The madly in love lady was going to take the guy to Shuyu tomorrow, and tonight she was going to be with him. Turning around, she also looked at him intently. The excited guy immediately understood what this could mean. A few hours later it was deep night. Li Yuan continued to cultivate his abilities to become much stronger, and performed meditation on his own bed. Now that the Jade Void Taoism clan's techniques are carved into his mind, he can train them at any time. However, in order to master some of the subtleties of special techniques, you will need to study with Ding Huan. After all, this is not only the teaching of the Jade Void clan, but also Ding Huan's life's work. After all, experience is the most valuable thing in the world. Suddenly, Ning appeared in the reflection of the mirror. The excited guy immediately drank the drink on his table. He was seriously worried before Ning arrived. In Ning Xiangrong's eyes, he has always been a bit of a reckless and confident guy, and he can't do something like this. Some time later, the hero was already standing at the door of Ning Xiangrong's house, preparing to enter. Well, if he comes in and starts making excuses, he will look even more pitiful. After all, he was single for all 19 years of his life, and should not be offended if it came to this. Having gathered all his will into a fist, he finally decided. And a moment later he opened the door to the waiting girl. The embarrassed lady met the hero, and was dressed in sleep clothes. Her appearance amazed the guy, because the girl was incredibly beautiful. He watched her anxiously and timidly waiting for him. After a few seconds of observation, he closed the door behind him. With slow steps, the girl approached Li Yuan. Watching this, he knew that there was no point in retreating. After all, he has other wives from the game. If he is also afraid, then he should not meet them at all. Their level of relationship has already reached its maximum, and it's time to take the next step. Knowing this, he should not be afraid, on the contrary, he should enjoy it. Such a sweet girl is looking at him, who is head over heels in love, and he simply has to do it. Suddenly, the guy resolutely grabbed her by the waist. Ning Xiangrong was stunned by the hero's bravery and became frightened by his actions. She was so close that they kissed passionately. Li met her in person not long ago, but for her it was more than 3 years ago. The loving couple merged in a single and tender kiss. As they continued their kiss, they wanted to do something more. Suddenly, someone knocked on Sister Ning's door and wanted to talk to her about something. The frightened lovers realized that it was Sheen knocking. Meanwhile, the girl stood at the door and saw that the light was on, but perhaps she was not in the room. But she knew that Sister Ning definitely had to spend the night here. And then, Sheen decided to look for Brother Jun Xian first. A moment later, a slightly worried Ning came out to Sheen. Sheen clearly no longer expected that someone would come out to me, and was surprised that the girl was there. The blushing lady replied that she was concentrating on cultivation, so she didn't hear the girl knock. Distantly, the girl replied that everything was clear, and continued to closely watch the girl. After all, she didn't understand why her face was so red, her clothes were rumpled and her breathing was uneven. And the little girl thought that she must have reached the crucial point of cultivation, perhaps her training was indeed exhausting, and Sheen asked if she could come in. The good-natured ladies replied that of course, and the girl began to enter. She came because she wanted to talk about brother Jun Xian. Meanwhile, the boy himself sat under the table and hid from the girl. And also, I didn't understand how it had come to this, and what was the point of his nascent soul stage if he couldn't teleport. At the same time, the hero watched the feet of the guest and Ning. Suddenly, he realized that at such a moment he could not sit here just like that. Laughing evilly, he wanted to do something. Sheen wanted to talk about brother Jun Xian without him knowing about it. This alarmed the girl, because it was simply impossible. Her brother Jun Xian was sitting under the table right now. The girl could not do anything now, and realized that it was better to leave everything as it was. Suddenly, Ning Xiangrong said that if the girl wanted to know about their relationship, then there was no need to go through all these difficulties. Because she came here for him, and tomorrow she will take him to her father. What she heard shocked the innocent Sheen, and she stood like a pillar. Ning, meanwhile, thought that if it weren't for this girl, he would have been her husband long ago. Upset, the little girl began to cry and said that everything was clear. But she is not here to show her dissatisfaction or jealousy, but simply wanted to ask about brother Jun Xian's past. When Ning realized this, she was surprised, because she did not think that the girl would ask this particular question. Her desperate appearance awakened a feeling of compassion, and Ning Xiangrong wondered if he had dated other girls during these 3 years. After thinking about it a little more in her head, the girl began to get angry, and she kicked the arrogant traitor on the head with all her might. But then he managed to intercept her leg, and this confused the lady even more, and she screamed. Sheen immediately asked what was going on and what was going on. The girl did not answer at all, and only said that in fact she herself was not sure why she screamed. Meanwhile, under the table, Li Yuan grabbed Ning's leg. As it turned out, the girl said that Li suddenly appeared and she did not know who he was. I didn't know why his cultivation level was so high, and how he bypassed Shuyu's guards. And when the girl went to wash herself in the pond as usual, Li Yuan discovered her. First he stole her clothes, and then smiled slyly at her. Meanwhile, the guy continued to hold his leg and tickle him little by little, and the girl was so angry with him that she couldn't get out of the water, so she started swearing at him right from there. The embarrassed Sheen then found out that brother Jun Xian was really like this. Continuing the story, the girl said that he simply stole her clothes and hid them, but did nothing else. On the contrary, they had a nice conversation, and he told her about many interesting things. At first she was just angry, but then it somehow went away on its own. He looked like a man from another world, filled with rich colors. And he made Ning Xiangrong feel that life before him was monotonous and boring, but the girl didn't know when it started, but she looked forward to his visit every time. But one day, unfortunately, he simply disappeared, as if he had evaporated. The girl deliberately left her Shuyu school and went to look for him, because she wanted to look at the world that he spoke so colorfully about. And she was not disappointed at all. During these 3 years she met many good people and visited many interesting places, but the mark left by Jun Xian in her heart became deeper and deeper. Previously, the girl had not seen anything other than her Shuyu school, because at that time she was only thinking about cultivation. Sheen also wanted to see the world, but her father thinks that her knowledge of martial arts is too superficial and her mind is not calm enough, so it is easy for her kidnap. Ning exclaimed that she really allowed herself to be kidnapped by one bastard in the estate. But the girl's leg was still in the hands of this bastard. It turned out that brother Jun Xian did not kidnap the girl, because on the contrary, she liked him. And no matter how capricious she was, he was always kind to her and cared about her, so she couldn't imagine that Jun Xian stole the girl's clothes. With tears in her eyes, she did not believe that a person could change so much in 3 years. Meanwhile, Ning thought that indeed, what could he have experienced in these 3 years, his cultivation had also changed significantly. At the same time, Li Yuan was about to bite the girl's leg. The lady didn't ask him, but he must have been through a lot. These words were immediately followed by a bite on the leg. The girl screamed, because she did not expect this to happen. Sheen was worried because she didn't understand what was happening to the girl. The frightened lady immediately got up from her chair, and the girl ran up to the lady and wanted to find out what was the matter. The worried lady just looked down. As soon as Sheen lowered her gaze, she saw something. There was a bite mark on Ning Xiangrong's leg. The frightened girl began to scream that there was a snake in the room. Well, looking under the table, she didn't find anyone. After looking around the room, she also found that the snake had slithered away. Ning confirmed that this was indeed the case, and she slipped away. Suddenly, the girl directed her gaze upward. Li Yuan sat on the roof and waved his hand to the girl, and soon, he asked her to be quiet and not say that he was here. The girl, who was worried about the situation, knew that it was dangerous and the snake might bite someone again. Ning confirmed that she should also be careful because the snake could be poisonous. Meanwhile, the girl knew that he bit her on purpose so that Sheen would pay attention to it, and then simply ran away. Jun Xian was very skilled in such matters. After examining her leg, the tearful girl wanted to know if Sister Ning was okay. The good-natured girl replied that everything was fine because she was an immortality cultivator and this wound would not harm her in any way. Ning asked Sheen to go and tell the servant that there was a snake in the house and let the guards help catch it. The girl immediately ran because she wanted to tell everyone about the incident. Meanwhile, the lady watched the girl leave. And soon, the door was closed. The guy immediately jumped from the roof to the girl. Outraged, Ning began to kick Lu Yuan. After all, she wanted to know why he actually bit her. The hero replied that her leg looked so delicious that he decided to taste it. And the restless lady thought it was nonsense, because her feet were dirty and smelled. But the guy in love believed that this was not the case at all, and Rongrong's body was all so clean and fragrant. A moment later, the guy had already sat down at the table. With a smile on his face, he began to pour himself tea from the teapot. Ning noticed that he was still smiling. The girl in love considered him a flatterer. Suddenly, the guy started laughing, and the girl shouted that she knew he was making fun of her. A few seconds later, Li Yuan took Ning Xiangrong's hand and asked if they would continue what they were doing. The lady who let go of her hand said that she needed to catch the snake, because if she doesn't do this, then all the people in the estate will feel in danger. A snake that was able to injure an immortality cultivator would really cause a commotion in the house. The flirtatious lady asked Li to help her change because the leg he had bitten was still hurting. Then, the hero wanted to know where her clothes were, and she was on the bed. He also wanted to know how to put clothes on her, but the girl only told him to listen to her first. Events continued to occur the next day. Opening the door, the girl was met by Li Yuan, who greeted him with love Rongrong. But it was no longer morning, but 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and it was time to say goodbye to Master Gu and go to Shuyu. A couple of minutes later, they were already at Master Gu's place and greeted him. The master asked how Jun Xian slept, taking into account the fact that a snake was found yesterday. But the guy slept peacefully, and all thanks to him. Master Gu. Ma Shu, meanwhile, greeted his sister. He also greeted Mr. Jun Xian and showed him something in his hand. It was a letter that stated that it was necessary to bring Schellen to Shuyu dock the day after his arrival, which meant that a spy from the highest echelon of the demonic cult in Shuyu sent him this letter through Ma Shu. At first, the hero wanted to just go to Shuyu and start working with Schellen there, but now he is thinking about helping Schellen deal with this spy. Since the guy and girl arrived at the estate a few days ago, it's time for them to return. Pondering the answer, the hero knew that the spy of the demonic cult was Pai Huanlua. When the time came, he would have no other choice, and would have to change his face again. Hearing that Li Yuan was about to leave, Sheen immediately became upset. The master was sorry that they were already leaving, but he understood everything. Soon, they all said goodbye to the master and Sheen together. Shuizhui said that he had already rented a horse, but it was a little expensive, so he had to hurry. It was the low-rank heavenly horse that Ma Shu summoned. The guy jumped on his horse and shouted that they would see each other in Shuyu. As befits the theme, but, working undercover, he is very good at reading people's thoughts. At the same time, the girl summoned her sword, and she was going to fly on it, but since the hero has a low level of cultivation, he would have to grab onto it from behind. Namely, wrap your arms around her waist. The hero gently grabbed the girl's waist, and they were about to fly. A moment later, they were already in the air and began to fly. Embracing while standing on the sword, they continued to fly to Shuyu. At this moment, Li Yuan realized that hiding his cultivation level was the right decision after all. He was incredibly happy because his dream had come true. Soon, the girl asked if it was true that Li Yuan taught the girl from the Gu family how to cultivate immortality because Ning sensed her aura. He was truly a hero because she wanted him to be, but he also told her that there would be many obstacles and regrets along the way. The lady immediately asked what the girl answered. As it turned out, even difficulties of this kind could make her change her mind. Ning Xiangrong concluded that she was a good and simple girl. Yesterday, when she came to her, she felt her horror that she did not know who the hero really was. But Ning herself also did not know who Li really was. Sheen was worried that he would leave her, so she tried to find out as much as possible about him. In her place, the girl would also be horrified, but she hopes that one day he will tell everything himself. In confusion, the hero did not know what to tell him, that he was from another world or that he had wives for several pages. Perhaps he decided to leave all this a secret. Some time later, events continued to occur in Shuyu. Everyone present exclaimed that the young miss had returned. The school students were also wondering who this guy was and why the young bottom was walking next to him, because he didn't seem like a good person. Absolutely everyone noticed that Sister Ning had returned, and the teacher was waiting for her. The nimble guy also noticed that this must be the same Taoist who killed Yu's brother, Li Yuan. The guy's name was Yu. He is Shuyu's inner disciple, and the one who will take the place of the next head, and he is from the same clan as Sister Ning. Watching the guy, the hero wondered if all Shuyu were like this. He knew that Li Yuan killed the previous successor of his clan, which means he must understand that he is weaker than him. Therefore, it was not entirely clear why he was acting so stupidly, and it seemed that Yu was another fool blinded by love. Yu shouted why the hero was ignoring him, as if he didn't know about the etiquette of exchanging names. Their Shuyu clan would never accept such a rude person who kills on a mere whim. All the school members also confirmed that their brother Yu was a good person, and he could not just become a minion of the demons because he was very kind and often helped them. The disciples assumed that this guy himself must be a minion of the demonic cult, and Sister Ning simply fell under his spell, or he threatened her. Watching the students, the hero compared them to the internet army of his world. And this Yu specifically brought people from Yulongjiang's faction here to put pressure on him and make him a murderer from the demon cult. But the hero didn't see anything like that at all. Suddenly, the man ordered everyone to shut up, because Yulongjiang's involvement in the demonic cult had already been proven, and he did not understand why everyone continued to deny it. This man was the owner of the Zhong Pavilion, and he said that Miss was already waiting for the head, and also, she had worked hard. The attentive man also noticed that the same son-in-law was standing next to the girl. Hearing this, the hero was a little shocked, because he clearly did not expect that he would get married soon. Suddenly, the insolent Yu shouted that this had not been decided yet, and he was outraged that Pavilion Master Zhong had taken such a position. Zhong immediately ordered the boy to quiet down, because he is just a junior, and has no right to say such things in front of him. Even if his father is a great elder, he must obey the laws of this place and know his place. At the same time, the hero realized that Yu was the son of a great elder, and it was no wonder he was so arrogant. In response, the guy only said that he was just telling the truth, but Zhong didn't think so, because he was patient for the sake of Elder Zhou's peace of mind, but the man would definitely take action. And since the man said so, the guy still decided to listen to his words. Watching this situation, Li Yuan thought that it was a pity that if this boy had attacked him first, the hero would have been able to immediately remove him. And the water in this small Shuyu pond turned out to be cloudier than he expected. A moment later, the couple was already at the door, near her father's property. Zhong invited the young lovers to go through this door. Meanwhile, the hero was thinking that Ning Tingshan, the head of Shuyu, was too protective of his daughter, so he kept the Rongruan with him like some kind of gem. And he defamed his pearl, and perhaps the father is going to finish the guy off. Ning Xiangrong, meanwhile, took the hero's hand. And she reassured him because everything was fine. Her father is a man of his word, and he promised not to cause any trouble for Li Yuan. With a smirk, she also asked that he even dared to steal her clothes while she was washing, and did not understand why he was afraid of her father then. Upon entering the house, Ning Tingshan, Ning Xiangrong's father, immediately stood in front of them. The girl clung even closer to the hero out of fear. Seeing this, the father immediately became angry and perplexed. Just as the hero thought, all fathers are the same, when someone touches their little pearl, they go crazy. Deciding to immediately be greeted, the hero bowed to Master Ning. Meanwhile, thinking about the fact that he meets the girl's parents for the first time. Due to meeting his parents and excitement, he completely forgot about the welcoming ceremony. According to tradition, when you meet a girl's parents, you must give something as a gift, and in the world of cultivators you need to share some techniques or give magic weapons, pills and treasures. Suddenly, the hero remembered his bag. He snatched it from Yulongzhang, but did not think that there was anything worthwhile for her in there. Suddenly, it dawned on the guy and he realized something. Due to the fact that this is their first meeting, but he does not have anything with him, so he wants to give this painting as a token of his gratitude. The old man was indignant and angry, because he thought that the hero thinks that he is still in the Shuyu estate, or he believes that Lady Ning is short of treasures, and he cannot marry her by refusing some painting. Hearing this, the guy realized that the old man immediately decided to apply moral pressure. This scroll, although it looked tattered, can be exchanged for a golden raven. And this is a sacred beast, it is much more valuable than any treasures. The damn old man immediately started with such groups of words, and he did not think that he had good intentions. Li Yuan decided to find out who this old man was and asked him who he was. He replied that his name was Zhou Wenjue. This meant that Zhou Wenjue was his adopted son, one of the great elders of Shuyu, and it was not surprising that he stood next to the head and pretended to be an important person, and the hero decided to ask what the old man's cultivation level was. The embittered Zhou Wenjue wanted to know what the younger man was leading to. As it turns out, the elder is in the nascent soul stage, and the guy decided to ask him another question, how old is he? But the old man asked him not to think that he is just because young miss is in love with him, and he can behave like this in Shuyu as he pleases, and the guy should stop his games. The witty guy asked if the old man could answer his question, or he did not hear it due to deterioration of hearing due to old age. If he did not hear, then he can repeat it. Unable to bear this, Zhou Wenjue slammed his wand and shouted that Jun Xian was impudent. The strike was followed by a clap of lightning, and he almost reached the hero, thereby trying to hit him. The hero continued to stand his ground and called the old man hot-tempered, but his cultivation level was not that high. This angered the arrogant old man even more, and he asked what the guy told him. The brave guy said that if the old man was going to get money from him after his violent death, then he didn't have it, but he had enough for a coffin. A moment later, a magic sphere appeared in Li's hand. After using it, the hero had a blue aura. This shocked the incredibly angry old man. He felt the influence of the hero's aura on him, and there was a circle of magic under his feet. This ability was called the shackles of fog. Holding his fist, he secured the shackles on the old man. The old man began to scream furiously in pain, but did not say another word. After the attack, Zhou Wenjue sat on the floor and was silent. The embittered old man did not understand how his nascent soul powers were blocked. Ning Tingshan's father, watching this, also didn't know how this was possible. Ning Xianrong watched and was worried about what was happening. The hero continues to say that in the world of immortal Taoists there is one interesting rule. Those who have a lower level of immortality cultivation should learn from those who have a higher level. Now the old man was 300 years old, and his cultivation level was the third stage of nascent soul. Li was several centuries younger than the old man, but already at the 9th stage of nascent soul. The old man can still consider himself the messenger of heaven and the rulers of the 5 elements, but what is the use of this if he cannot defeat the hero? Is it not in vain that people say that you need to respect those who are stronger than you? That's why it's better to ask the elder, said the hero. The indignant and embittered old man believed that the guy had no right to intimidate the elder. A moment later, he turned to the head for help. The worried man did not know what to say to the elder. Soon, the man turned around and addressed his son-in-law, because Elder Zhou Wenjue had made a huge contribution to the development of Shuyu, and he could not lose his dignity like this. Listening to this answer, the hero knew that it was this weak character of Ning Tingshan that led Shuyu into such chaos, and since his father-in-law asked, he, as a son-in-law, would listen. And soon, he freed the old man from the shackles of magic. After his release, the old man's dantian appeared. This is insurance in case Elder Zhou Wenjue holds a grudge and decides to take revenge on him one day, but there is no need to worry because the elder will still be able to carry out his cultivation. But from now on, Li Yuan will keep an eye on his dantian. Watching the hero closely, the old man could not say anything, but he was angry as ever. Ning Tingshan asked his son-in-law to sit down first, and asked if he could take a look at the painting because he had studied painting and calligraphy a little. The good-natured guy handed the man a picture. As soon as the scroll opened in front of them, they did not realize that this was the authentic work of the saint. With shocked glances, they continued to watch the painting and were amazed at its beauty. Even the old man was stunned by the gift Li Yuan gave for Ning Tingshan. Thus, the hero realized that Xie Qian's painting was an authentic work of the saint. Zhou Wenjui exclaimed that this was truly the power of a saint. Approaching the hero, the old man wanted to know where he got this picture. Indignantly, the guy replied that he was sorry, but he had no right to tell him this information. The head was happy, and he and Ning Tingshan could go to Shuyu to rest together, and they would discuss the wedding after the Yulongzhang matter was completed. Realizing this, the guy was surprised, because his father didn't even try to kill him. Some time later, Ning led the hero to the place where he would live. She lived here as a child until she moved into the next room. Her father reacted so strongly to this power of the saint, and the girl wanted to know what this picture was. The lady only knew that hundreds of years ago, many saints appeared, but at the same time, many of them later disappeared. The saints disappeared, until eventually they finally disappeared. Perhaps only her father and Elder Zhou survived this era. And if Li Yuan does anything to Elder Zhou Wernui again, he will definitely bear a grudge against him. Smirking, the guy replied that everything was fine, although he had not fully recovered, he was still able to cope with it. No matter how good he was, Ning Tingshan was still very worried about him. A moment later, Li merged in a passionate kiss with Ning. The lady was flattered by this behavior of the hero, and it was very pleasant. Another long and eventful day lay ahead of them. With joy, the girl rushed into the arms of the hero, because that's how it happened. The elder admitted, even though this guy is at the same stage of cultivation as him, but Zhou Wenjui did not feel the spiritual power of Tao in him. Surprised, Ning Tingshan did not understand how this was possible. Possessing the nascent soul stage without spiritual powers is only possible in two ways. The first option, he was injured when he reached the nascent soul stage, so he had to seal his nascent soul. Or he ascended to this stage by taking special pills, then he would forever become at the nascent soul stage. He was too young, so the elder was sure that this was the second option. And if this is so, then the hero will not be happy. Pills and adding attributes from cards are somewhat similar, but cards are much more convenient in this regard. The only difference is that attributes do not give the innate power of the nascent soul stage. Therefore, he cannot use the power of the nascent soul stage. At the moment he is in the last stage of core formation, the attributes of the cards have raised it by 10, in truth, he does not even have a gold core. If he degrades even a little, then his strength will be equal to that of the 27th level of the initial stage, but he does not even have the spiritual power of Tao. In short, Li Yuan is at the 36th stage of Qi cultivation, alas, but in this world there are those who outwardly look like great geniuses, but in fact, they are still at the 7th stage of Qi cultivation. And this is too weak, and the guy knew that he needed to train harder, otherwise if he met a truly strong opponent, he would have neither powerful weapons nor spiritual powers, since he was just an empty shell and he will be able to do nothing. Also, the hero remembered the note that Ma Shu gave him, which stated that they needed to meet at the Moon Lake Pond the day after tomorrow. He remembered that Ning Tingshan went there because she must have decided to change her bathing spot to avoid meeting him. He shouldn't worry about an ordinary encounter with a demonic cult spy. Shuyu is located in the middle part of the map, so there are no masters with a cultivation level above the nascent soul stage. Well, everything will change if Pai Huanlua shows up here. Hero lay down on the bed and said that he had a headache because of this lady. Suddenly, someone asked him who he was talking about. Not understanding what was happening, the hero immediately got out of bed. In front of him was a certain entity that looked like gray smoke. Suddenly, she turned into a human. It was the same Pai Huanlua. Out of nowhere she appeared in front of Li Yuan. The girl who came was the hero. She immediately began to approach him, introducing herself as Pai Huanlua. Having licked the hero, she said that she could only belong to him, Jun Xian. Only the girl wanted to know whether in this case Jun Xian would belong only to Pai Huanlua. The stunned guy didn't even know what to answer her. After all, he felt how her gentle hands could suddenly crush his head. No one said that the full scale of favor guarantees that she will not do anything to him. When a person's love begins to go beyond the imagination, it is terrifying. Having come to his senses, the guy decided to ask what she was doing here. The lady thought that he had finally stopped hiding from her, so she took the initiative. Because he was supposed to meet with a demonic cult spy in the vicinity of Shuyu, and the girl thought that he should understand that she would be here too. With horror, he realized that it was precisely that message. Initially, the meeting was not planned in the vicinity of Shuyu, but the girl was afraid that he would not come, and changed the meeting place. This is how she was able to send a signal. Listening to all this, the guy understood that he should have guessed. So his punishment followed for mocking the stupidity of others. Pai Huanlua asked the guy not to be so depressed, because her Jun Xian should not give up without even fighting. They share a love knot, wherever he goes, she can always find him. It's the same with her, thanks to him he will always be able to find her. Realizing that the girl had attached a parasite to him, he wanted to know when she did it. After all, he understood that the last time they saw Pai Huanlua was in the form of Jiang Feng. And this means that she recognized him then. The lady admitted that it was true, and he was incredibly cute when he tried to pretend to be ignorant and rude. What he heard caused even more fear in the hero, and he stepped back. He asked the girl not to approach him, because he would not give up even if he died today. This parasite was created by a cultivator at the unification stage, and there was no way he could get rid of her at his level. Jumping onto the bed, the lady asked the guy if he was afraid of her. Appearing before him in a terrifying form, she demanded an answer. And then she whispered in her ear that everyone should be afraid of her except him. From that moment on, the guy thought that she wanted to kill him. But this was clearly not in his plans, because if this continues, then he will indeed meet his end, and he needs to come up with something. In confusion, the hero said that he was afraid of Pai Huanluo, and the girl added that she was never afraid of him. Otherwise they would not have met. Suddenly, outside the door, Ning Xiangrong suddenly said that she would come to him now. Immediately the hero shouted at her not to do this and not to enter. The lady immediately asked what was the matter, because she did not understand what was happening here. Realizing the awkwardness of the situation, the hero thought that all girls have the skill of arriving on time, and such coincidences cannot just happen. The hero only replied that everything was fine, and the girl should just wait outside. The worried lady wanted to know if he was sure that everything was fine, because she heard trembling in his voice. The homewrecker exclaimed that Jun Xian's beloved was waiting for him outside. For now, he is the one who is going to marry her, but lies here in an embrace with another girl. Feeling interested, the girl continued to put pressure on him. She felt that her Jun Xian was not so pure, because he smelled like another girl. Ning was still not sure that everything was okay, but since he said so, everything was okay, and she believed him. Turning around, she immediately began to leave, a little disappointed in the guy. Meanwhile, the hero was thinking about how to save himself in this situation. And he asked the girl to listen to him. The impudent lady just covered his mouth and asked him to shut up. Looking at the door, she concluded that his lover had left. The guy was also happy that Ning Xiangrong left. But as it turned out, this was not the case, and the girl's shadow was visible through the door. The lady asked the hero what he thought, whether the girl would come in or not. Smiling, the guy replied that he wouldn't come in because he told her so. Meanwhile, Ning Xiangrong was thinking that on that day, when Gu Sheen knocked on the door, she and Jun Xian were together. Trying to get rid of these thoughts, the girl believed that she was just making it all up. There are only her and Jun Xian in this pavilion, he must be training hard right now, and she shouldn't come in and disturb him. Suddenly, a scream was heard outside the door. The lady was worried about Xian because she thought that an old wound had opened or his spiritual power was unstable after his cultivation level decreased. The hero could only answer that everything was fine and asked not to worry, because this training was too exciting. He just cultivated and the spiritual power skyrocketed and then immediately dropped back down, which is why he said it was exciting. But then Ning Tingshan told Sheen that she was training and busy, but she could not think badly of her lover, because she believed that there could be no betrayal. And then she decided to guard him outside while he concentrated on training. The blushing guy asked her not to do this, because he could handle it himself. But anyway, the girl came here to meet him, she has nothing else to do, she said that this time she will protect him, even if he is stronger than her. All this is because the lady wanted to be at least a little useful. The hero was touched and asked not to worry, because it was his choice. It seems that now the girl's choice supports his cheating, and she will have to wait outside all night. The caring guy shouted that it was already late at night, and he was afraid that she would catch a cold. Ning objected because immortals cannot catch a cold. After which, the guy said that he felt bad that she was there alone, and she had better go to bed. And in any case, everything will be fine with him. The girl did not believe him because she believed that he was just trying to calm her down. The guy clearly had everything under control, and he would come to her later, but for now he asked her to go to her room. The embarrassed girl blushed and said that in that case she would wait for him there. Pai Huanluo wanted to know how her dear Jun Xian would look into the eyes of his beloved after this. But while he was in this position, after any wrong word he said, he would lose his head. It's like it's not a pillow of knees, but a guillotine. The guy admitted that now his head is in the girl's hands, and now she needs to make her move. The affectionate girl began to massage the hero's head. Soon, the hero wanted to ask her if she was angry anymore. The girl was surprised that he realized that she was angry. He also knew that she did everything out of anger, because she thought that he was afraid of her. But he is not afraid of her at all, it was just too unexpected, and this is not the same thing. It would be strange if he were taken aback when she suddenly appeared in his room. The hero also admitted that he really likes Ning Xiangrong. The lady asked him if he was afraid that she would kill him after these words. Smirking, the guy suggested that she would not do this. She smiled the same way, because the guy was still confident in himself. Well, if she wanted to kill him, she would not have done such stupid things, but would have simply done it. She was still talking to him and was acting quietly, which means that the level of relationship was still in effect. Li Yuan had no doubt that he would not kill him, because in the whole world there was no one who knew her better, there was no other man who, knowing that she was a Rakshasa witch, would treat her like a girl. And there is no one who loves her more than Jun Xian. When it comes to a Yandra whose relationship scale has already reached the limit, then you need to treat her the same way she treats you, which is why the hero was so fearless. The witch also admitted that he is the only one who treats her like this, and she also devoted all her human feelings to him. Suddenly, the hero shouted that he would be the only one Pai Huanlo needed, because her body and mind can only belong to him. Also, he likes someone else, and he's a real egoist. In the future, many others may like him, and many others may like him. But in this world, there is only one Jun Xian, who belongs to her, and only one Pai Huanluo, who belongs to him. It doesn't matter whether she considers him impudent or some kind of villain, he completely settled in her place, and she took her corner in his. He had already grabbed the girl and was going to never let go. After that, he kissed her with lightning speed, because to him, no one was as important as she was. Suddenly, the hero felt something, as if she had removed the love poison, but had placed something else in his heart. She deliberately broke his heart. Realizing this, the hero thought that she removed the parasite and broke his heart in return. There is nothing human in her. The girl added that the guy shouldn't worry about it, because she broke her heart with the help of a magic knife, which she had never shown to anyone before, and now it is in his possession. And if he refuses Pai Huanluo, then she will die.